I can make money from the comfort of my soul. So much drive, so much drive, so much drive. Now I gotta get a chauffeur.
Pompopalloa, lentopalloa,
I can make money from the comfort of my sofa. So much drive, now I gotta get a chauffeur. One day I'll be big, but I know I'm getting closer. Call me Denzel, aka Big O. The world in my hands, cause I took it off the shoulder. Money on my feet, you know I got the shit from lower. I'm ballin' like Mike when you see him on a poster. Like, yeah, they gotta get one in my holster. Strike. Go around and catch a hot one to your temple. Ain't shit changed, but the number on my front door. Go around and catch a hot one to your temple. Got a new chain, what you think I brought the strap for?
Ain't no beating me, I'm blessing likes, money fucking dollar signs. No, you ain't gon' say it, boy, you'll tell, let's see what's on your mind. X, let them go, cause how you bullet every time. 50 on my chest, I got like 40 on my...
Welcome to the main event! New season, it's SSA, and that brings a new rounds roster. Renshiro, Wheelu, Cam got it done in the Swiss stage to qualify themselves to the GSL. 4 rounds required, plenty of recovery needed, but there were times with pop-up potential from all 3 players. Look at that goal there from Wheelu. Reunion, South Africa, Renshiro, the 2/3 rule is in place, and this season of SSA we're loading the rounds till the very, very top. Spanish Papenvos tried as they would like here in round 4, but ultimately Rounds got it done later. Rounds got a fantastic game here in the second. It took a little bit of time, but eventually we end up here. GSL stage, upper bracket qualification, round 4 finish, and returning with all the action, it's myself, Sir Pegasus, joined by Rhino and Quante. Guys, how are we feeling today? I mean, the music has got me hyped, and seeing your faces as well has done the same. We'll start off with my European brother, Rhino. It's time for the main event, 2/3 rule.
It is time for the main event, Pegasus, and I'm so excited. SSA has had a lot of rhetoric around it. It's one of the main reasons that the 2/3 rule is in place from the very beginning, and we are going to see so much SSA talent on display throughout today, and I can't wait to see it. What a day we have ahead of us.
Absolutely, and look, you are raring and ready to go, full of energy, full of turkey, and ready to get something else to be thankful for. Kwanzaa, the big day is here.
Yeah, American Thanksgiving for me yesterday. I had a lovely time with the family, and now up bright and early to truly be thankful for SSA Rocket League. That's what's on the docket. That's what we've all been waiting for. You already highlighted the 2/3 rule, Pig, and now we get to see it in the toughest of standards, GSL, and on to mainstream.
Absolutely, it is going to be quite the journey today, but we've been on quite a journey in the first place to get to this position. I feel like the phrase peaks and troughs really comes to mind here. We'll get into a little bit more detail to that later, but Rhino, what's your general prospects moving forward today? How are we feeling for the roster?
I'm feeling really good right now, all right? I've had some time to decompress from Sunday, and I think it's about time that we start to realize that this is a competitive team here in this region. These 3 players, at their peak, at their ceiling, can absolutely do damage to any team in this region. I'm excited to see that later on today, as we're going to bring up our predicted brackets a little bit later on. But if those do come true, then there's a really big matchup coming a little bit later on today that I cannot wait to see how the boys faring.
Spoilers, Rhino. Yes, predictions later. Might have to stick around for the pre-show here in chat because it's going to get a little bit dicey in this VC. But for now, it's all smiles and friendly. Quantek, you've been there for every series so far for rounds. You're going to be here for all of the action here today. Some more of the same, at least in the more positive strides.
Yeah, I mean, I think this team has it. You know, as Rhino brought up, I mean, this region is so competitive. You know, we were talking through Swiss stage that like 3 through 32, those teams could all vary week to week. I might push that up a little bit based off of what I've been seeing from some of this competition. I think on the right day, the 2 Goliaths in this region can potentially be toppled. I think any one of these teams on a good run can get the job done. Rounds is no exemption to that, excuse me. And I think as a result, they can make a push. We'll have to see them in the series most likely later today against one of those aforementioned teams, but I think with the right momentum, they can get the job done.
Of course, it's still early doors. Let's walk up to the entrance. It was that double elimination stage where typically, especially when you're one of the highest seeded teams in the region, you expect 2 easy matchups. And as much as Rounds did make this look like a simple affair, only requiring 4 games out of 2 total series to get the job done, these were actually 2 teams that ended up making the top 32. Rhino, that's very impressive that Rounds made it look so simple then.
Yeah, it certainly was. I mean, you do look at this particular game that's on screen against Fennec, and you just start to see exactly why we've been building up this team so much. They absolutely dominated that game. They dominated the entirety of the double elim. You can see it right there. Not a single game lost on the entire day. That tells you the quality that Rounds can bring through.
Absolutely, and Contact, you were there for that first day as well. You saw that 9-0 thrashing in that final series. It was an excellent one to watch. It got us raring and ready to go for the Swiss stage, but I'm sure our assessments did somewhat change a little bit later. But how are you feeling at the end of that initial Saturday?
I mean, you and I were smiling cheek to cheek once that forfeit came through. We were like, oh my gosh, 4 games of the double elim stage. It's got to be, I said it's got to be a world record, and then you shattered my hopes and dreams and said that there was some sort of double FF that happened in OCE, but it will still stand stalwart in the fact that Rounds played so well. There were a little bit of hiccups here and there. They got off to a slow start, which unfortunately has been a trend for this team through Swiss stage as well. But finishing that day with a 9-0, I was on top of the world. I didn't think anything could slow us down headed into Swiss.
Well, that slow start stage that you were talking about was certainly established in the Swiss. It was the first round up playing against White Rabbit Gaming. Of course, as one of the highest seeded teams heading into the Swiss, you play one of the highest seeded teams in the lowers. This was off the back of a sweeping loss against Team Hosky. White Rabbit Gaming found themselves in this spot, and they proved very early that this team is no slouch whatsoever. Outside of those top 16 seeds, they did eventually qualify, but it was all rounds to able to take this game in the final fours. White Rabbit Gaming, this 4th game was unbelievable. It had me and Conseg pulling our hair out, but eventually we did qualify for that 1-0 bracket.
And Series 2 of the day, after a smooth first series, started exactly the way we wanted it to from a Rounds perspective, launching into a convincing lead in both games 1 and 2. However, after leading in Game 3 2-0, Rounds started to show their slight frailties, with Yoppie taking advantage of a few mistakes and turning the momentum around. Rounds appeared to lose confidence after this game, and our opponents continued making it hard for the boys, taking Game 4 as well to set up a Champions Field meeting early in the day. Yoppie kept their momentum in Game 5 and pulled off the reverse sweep against the Finnish org, leaving Rounds in a very, very precarious 1-on-1 stance heading into round 3. It wasn't the best game of the day by any stretch of the imagination from Rounds. However, were they able to pick themselves up moving forward?
Well, Rhino, I'm going to go ahead and say the answer was yes. Facing off against Mzanzi Magicians, we got the rebound that all of us were desperate for. Precarious was how we all felt headed into it, but the boys picked it up and started feeling pretty good about themselves, walking away with a couple close games, 3-2 in game number 1, but game 2 is when we really saw the offense start clicking. Highlight reel plays, infield passes abound. Most of these goals here in this game number 2 would probably contended for a top 5 goals of the Swiss stage from Rounds, and they capstoned it with a 3-2 victory to walk away into the 2-1 side of the bracket.
And luckily, I kept my inhaler close at hand from Series 2 for Series 4, where rounds played Spanish, Pap, and Wars, Nitro, Zyro, and Chonkla. We knew that this was a strong team on paper, but we fancied that rounds would be able to take this one heavy-handed. The first game was dicey for Spanish Pap. Our confidence was ever increasing. Game 2, that was all the same. The demos were coming out. Demon Time Cam, as we were calling him during that Swiss stage, was at full force. This second game had me bouncing around the room. Rhino, he'd had a busy day at work. He had just come off the back of a drive, and even he was chock full to the brim of energy. Not quite enough to put on the sunglasses. But here in the third game, hold on a minute, what's happening? I thought the 2/3 rule was in place. I didn't think there was going to be another Spaniard I would have to be concerned about, but Chonkla started absolutely popping off. Eventually, we found ourselves in Game 5. It was another scarily tight affair. Rounds got themselves off to an early start, but Spanish Pap and Wars proved that they were unstoppable. But Rounds, that immovable object refusing to budge, gets themselves into the GSL. It was late drama, but ultimately Rounds get the job done. Scary stages. Every team we played, I believe, actually ended up making it, except for Mzanzi's Magicians, to the main event. So, considering every single stage we had, that was a pretty tough run. But it, of course, does not get easier in the main event. Ox Gaming as that first team, but hold on a minute. There's an organization next to White Rabbit Gaming's opponents. It's 5 Fears, Rhino.
Yeah, this is a huge pickup. We were waiting for the day that Snowy Guns and Tekos were going to be picked up here in SSA because it's too good a roster simply not to. And in the end, it's 5 Fears who come through, and we're actually talking about him right now. He's in chat, Pyro J, making his presence known as the new caster for the 5 Fears roster. And yeah, as I say, that is a very scary team here in SSA. Certainly one of those top 2 teams we were talking about a little bit earlier on, and very excited to see them in the later rounds, if that is indeed where we get to.
It's time. We're going to put the casters on a hot seat, ladies and gentlemen. You thought you were safe in the corner, Quanzek, but it is time to hear your top 60 predictions. How's it going tonight?
I've been sitting nice and pretty over here. Now I'm about to make some enemies, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the takeaway for me and myself. And I.
Wow.
5 Fears over White Rabbit. I think nobody is going to question that one. They are the favorites in our section of the GSL. Rounds I have taken over Ox. Cosmico and Astronic, I think, is going to go down to the wire. That lower side of GSL, I think, will be very entertaining. Same thing with Team 10 and Synthesis. I'm actually going to give it to them. They had a little bit of a Cinderella run through Swiss. I don't think it's a fluke. I think they can put their games together and connect on some crucial wins. Cosmico into Team 10. I'm going to flip that around this time around, but I genuinely think that there's going to be some very close-knit Rocket League, and once we get to the lower semis, guys, it's going to be anybody's games. But concluding in forward into the main stage, I have 5 Fears, Cosmico, Team 10, and Rounds.
Yeah, absolutely. That's those aren't too bad picks, Quanzek, but I'm still not convinced it's a winning card. I think we're going to have to come through with my predictions now and just see how different or not they are going to be. And you can see in those early rounds, I've been a bit kinder to some teams. I've been a little bit unkinder to other teams as we take a look. So obviously 5 Fears. I've given WRG a game. I do think WRG can be dangerous to a team like 5 Fears, especially if they're not warmed up, if they're not coming in the right mindset.
Now
so
I have an issue.
I gave a point to White Rabbit. Now, the next one down, people might have an issue with. People might have a question about. Okay, Rounds 3-2 to Ox Gaming, but I want to bring your mind back to the fact that Rounds have notoriously had a very slow start. They are a team that don't necessarily get things going from game 1. They get things going from games 2 and 3 onwards. And so for that reason, I have got Rounds going through. I still believe we're going to be into those upper finals. I just think Ox Gaming have the ability and the firepower to make it a little bit more difficult to get into that upper final. So we'll see us there for sure. It's just about how many games are being played. Meanwhile, moving down, Cosmico, I think, are doing well. And, of course, Synthesis are going to get through in that one as well. That sets up a really good upper finals. Five Fears, I think, do go through against Rounds. Now, there is a conversation to be had about Rounds getting a game. I hope they do get minimum of that. And even if they go through in that upper final...
That's my biggest issue with your
that
bracket.
would be great. Is it really?
We're giving White Rabbit a game, but not the team stream we're commentating.
Yeah, and I've already said that's because Five Fears are coming in cold in that upper final round one, okay? And they might just drop the ball, but they're going to be awake. They're going to have hot hands going into that second game. Rounds are going to struggle against a top performing. So I think we're actually ready to go, Quanzek. I think the game is ready, so... here we go. Game one of the day between Rounds and Ox Gaming to be one win away from going through into the top 6, as it would be, Quan. And we're against Elixir, Strutic, and Technic Eagle.
Yeah, I mean, a really big game to qualify yourself into the top 6, and you just did a quick rundown of the roster. It should be a fun Ox Gaming roster. I mean, I don't really know what to make of this team outside of the case that, you know, they are going to have highs and lows. I think this team can peak to a really high level, but the inconsistency might come to plague them. We've gotten used to a Rounds slow start, so much so that my co-caster here in Rhino predicted them winning in 5. So let's see if we can avoid going the distance. I don't need my blood pressure to be that high when we first start the stream.
Yeah, especially with all that the carbohydrates in your body from yesterday, Quan. It's going to be going to be a rough one for you. But it's also worth mentioning on that right-hand side, you see Ox Gaming, you see Strutic with the Hungarian flag, and that is actually because that is where he moved to. He was born, as I understand it, in South Africa, so he has that citizenship, and he I believe currently lives there as well. There's but I know for a fact Strutic is seen as a homegrown SSA player, so that is where those flags are coming from. Elixir, of course, being the Portuguese player, the import on Ox Gaming, and we've seen these players around the SSA scene for quite a while. Strutic and Eagle, certainly two players who we know very, very well here in SSA, and we know that they can be dangerous. They've taken games against some of the biggest teams in the region. They are very, very solid mentally, and so it is going to be a tough game in this opener, but I think a lot is going to be decided in game 1, Quan. If we can go out the blocks quick, get a victory in game number 1, then I think the rest of this figures itself out. What do you think?
I mean, I agree, but again, you know, much easier said than done. We've broken record at this point of how much we've highlighted the slow start from Rounds, so coming out of the blocks quick may not happen. We might be a bit sluggish, although we might have lead strapped to our feet. But if Rounds are able to find their footing, I do agree with you that I think that we're expecting a win. It's predicted on both of our brackets. I think we can walk into this series with some confidence that Rounds is going to find their stride. I know this team is super excited and passionate about this GSL stage, so that goes a very long way mentally before you even start any game.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you even need to look at the work that Renshiro has been putting in behind the scenes as well. Buddy is grinding. Okay, he is on the game as much as he possibly can be. I think I heard an insane stat. 9.5 hours per day for the last 2 weeks on average.
Oh my Lord.
This guy is playing Rocket League, making sure he's improving, making sure he's ready to go in this GSL bracket and take Rounds to a Final 8, and you know that he's going to be instilling that into the other boys as well. Cam and Wilu will be away working in the lab with Renshiro, and the new assistant coach as well, the new mental coach coming through, just announced by Rounds yesterday. We welcome Spooky to the team, and we hope that he can do wonders for us, because mental, I'm sure you're aware, Quanzek, and as someone who's got coaching experience, is such a big part of the game.
Oh, 100%. And the amount of players that I've played with personally or talked to and coached that get super flustered really easily, it's going to be a big deal. You know, these are pro players. They've been through the gauntlet before. I don't expect them to be that bad, but it's that learning process of keeping your wits calm as you move forward.
Certainly. Well, it is time to get into the game. Rounds versus Ox Gaming starts with a bang. Demo coming through early onto Technic. Clearance away from Cam. It will be picked up by Technic Eagle, who tries to turn the corner. Weelu deals with it enough. Cam will collect out of the corner, drive down that left-hand side. Has one to beat, doesn't beat him, but the pass infield to Renshiro gets us off to a very quick 1-0 start.
A slow start. Ooh, Cam, just a brilliant 50. Baz, I mean, it's defense, but when you're taking an outside positioning for that 50, you're inviting evil into your home. That's exactly what happens with round starting at 1-0, maybe 2-0. Cam, pinch center. Willow can't completely get there off the kickoff.
Love that pinch, though. It wasn't powerful enough that it went all the way to the back, but it was just about right to fall at the back post. Really nice play from Cam. Doesn't work out this time, but I'm liking what I'm seeing early. Cam going up again, full of confidence, looks for the pass. Dealt with for the moment, but at the same time, there is rounds pressure continuing in the first minute.
Drop down. A good 50 there by Technic. Renshiro looking for a double tap off the sidewall. Going to try to steer it in field. Instead, look for the pass. Technic over the sidewall, and Ox Gaming have gone very cognizant of that ball scraping across their crease. They don't want to keep it in the center. Move it to the corners, as Rounds has already struck the back of the net early here.
Yeah, they have, and now this is Lixa, the Portuguese, leaving it for Strutic. Coming off that side wall, dealt with for the moment by Cam, and Willu comes through like a bull in a china shop, just wanted to get that ball anywhere. Renshiro will deal with that one, sends it long. Lixa intercepts, Cam does the same. Off the right-hand side, Willu is highest, and Strutic does get dusted a little bit, but the clearance still is in for Ox Gaming. That go-ahead almost working out for them. But time is starting to tick down. We're starting to get a little bit of Karma Rocket League. Renshiro trying to pick the pace up again as he finds Willu, but nothing doing. Opportunity here for Cam. Backboard, Willu gets in front. Lixa with the clearance.
It did feel like that first 30 seconds was super flustered, but now that all these teams have settled in, the favor's been in rounds, but it may come back to bite them. That shot gonna go in from Baz. Ox Gaming one apiece, and it's all off of this Goomba. Cam, aggressive third man stepping up to the play, but has a orange car fall on top of his body, and as a result, the aggressive third man play can't come through. He can't make any contact, and we're all tied up.
And it's something that we have talked about before with this round side, is that not really any of them want to be playing that third man role, right? Cam wants to be in the action, Renshiro wants to be in the action, Willu wants to be in the action. So as soon as you have that moment where that fast counterattack comes through from an enemy team, that already feels a little bit like a weakness that rounds have spotted in this first open. But that does mean their attack when they happens are so fluid. There are so many players involved. You just expect everything to go in, and if we score more than you, we win the game. A great bump onto Strutic as well to give Rounds the lead once more.
Look, man, Rounds are just a team that likes fireworks, Rhino. Who cares about defense when you can score 7 goals on your opponent's head? They're going to get the job done one way or another. The physicality coming through to give Rounds the lead again. And, I mean, we have highlighted that in the past of an issue with this team, being like, yeah, when they're trapped on defense, it's very likely that the opposition will score, but then you do have the flip side, exactly what you just highlighted, of somebody coming through, generating a play out of nowhere as whiffs abound. About 3 players in unison missed the ball there. And Rounds will collect possession via Renshiro towards the middle of the net, but there's no boost to generate anything threatening.
Yeah, that's a nice bump, though, on the back line. It's going to cause some problems here for Ox Gaming. They do come away with it, but Renshiro takes a shot. Saved by Strutic. Willu has an opportunity, and as long as he read that, as long as he got something on it, he was going to score, and Quan, that's exactly what he does. A nice shot from Renshiro causes the double commit from Ox Gaming. It's an empty net, and all we can do is finish the job. It is going to be 3-1.
Rounds looking good right now. Running away with this lead. They've rebounded from that 1 goal, and There's opportunities they're finding are very well strung together. This one a little bit sloppy, though, as two players end up on top of each other. They do sort out the double commit so that it doesn't end up happening. Sidewall redirect won't go. That shot from Willow on the collection won't go either, but rounds. They're knocking out the door, Rhino. It's just a matter of time into a fourth. Hard off the corner. Willow won't be able to get there a little bit too fast for his own good. Cam, that was a dangerous touch. But he'll take it and try to fake to Renshiro. The defense read it all the way through for Mox Gaming. But the pressure from rounds. No, I thought that one was going to go. Renshiro rebound. Ox Gaming holding stalwart. But man, rounds are peppering that net.
They're not just knocking on the door at this point. They've got a big piece of wood as a battering ram, using all three of them, trying to force their way through the door. And in the end, it has led to 3 goals so far. But this team is so much fun to watch, so attacking. They continue on that track. And now here comes Willow moving forwards. Cam moving forwards, trying to cause some damage. And Willow just misses. Is there a chance to correct the wrong? Renshiro tries to finish it, hits the post. And we go back onto defense. But Quanzek, I've said it just there, and I will say it until the cows come home. Rounds are going to be a fun team to watch this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's all fire. There's nothing slow about this team. Once they get cooking offensively, it's chance after chance. And props to Ox Gaming's defense for holding as long as they could, but it was only a matter of time. It comes with 7 seconds left on the clock and secures the win for rounds, of 4th one onto the board.
Yeah, and well, any fears that anybody had who clearly is a bad at their job and a bad analyst of a slow start coming through from rounds, well, they have been absolutely shut up in this one. As a 4-1 victory, Ox Gaming played off the park for, I would argue, probably 4.5 minutes of the 5. This has been a demolition job, and they're going to keep this ball alive. They know the result of this game. It doesn't really matter. They want to pad those stats. It doesn't end up happening. It will be 4-1 to rounds, and I mean, moving forwards, that's a very, very good start.
Yeah, and I will say this as my 2 cents here. I mean, we've been agonizingly annoying about the slow start for rounds. Oh my gosh, they need to find their groove. They're not going to win the first couple of games. They can't get off to a good start. If this is a trend that rounds themselves have already identified and corrected, because we noticed it through Double Elam and Swiss, that shows you the strength and the fortitude of this team to go ahead and fix things before they're actually an issue. I mean, they're making all of us look silly here in the booth of like, oh yeah, we're casters, we're such good analysts. Like, good job, Rounds. Thank you for making us look silly, because that means you guys are also doing your job behind the scenes of identifying the issues in your game and fixing them. And if they're doing this in only day 3 of open number 1, I'm fearful of what this team can become later on into this RLCS season.
I totally agree with you, Quanzek. And hard work is the first ingredient in becoming great, right? This team are very clearly going back, watching the VODs, making sure that they understand what they need to work on moving forwards, and they have done that. A lights out start for the Finnish org. Let's see if we can go 2-0 up and get series point early on. Cam looking for the pass. He's made a bit of a hash of it, and it will be an opportunity for Ox Gaming to come forward. But Willow, as that third man, able to block it off.
Demo on the back end means this breakout will be relatively easy for rounds. Beating Baz there as well. Not much more doing, though, as Cam will just send this down into the inverse corner. Backflip pass. Willow north of the bar looking for help, but Renshiro recognizing if he commits there, there's nobody home, so he'll live to find a challenge that's a bit more safer and allows Willow to have that strong backboard defense. Technic pop up. 50 right in the dead center of the field as Renshiro dribbles around 1. He's still on this great dunk. It's going to go straight in. Renshiro, a lone hero for 1-0. Go rounds.
That's exactly what we're looking for from Renshiro. Be a menace on the backlines. Never give up on a play, even if you have 0 boost, even if you get the feeling that maybe there's just nothing in this play. Renshiro does not understand the meaning of that term, and he pushes forwards and he still makes something happen. A huge 50 being taken by him, and a massive goal for Rounds to lead in this game number 2. Cam doesn't have a lot to work with. Strutic finds the pass over to the far side. Technic will not go there. And Renshiro comes away down the right-hand side, looking to move forwards. Gets a wave dash opportunity cleared away by Ox Gaming. But Rounds, every time they go up the field, every time they're in offense, they look like they're going to score.
And what I want to highlight too is their defense doesn't look like their weakness right now. Every time they're tasked with clearing out this ball, it is one it's one motion. They are not dilly-dallying with it. They're not allowing Ox Gaming to set up an extended pressure. They're getting the ball, they're fighting a clearance, getting boosts, and then getting ready for the next sequence. Rounds have consistently struggled defensively because they take too long. They try to find a transition play instead of just getting it out. They're just getting it out this time. Ox Gaming has had an answer for it so far.
Yeah, for sure. But I will just piggyback on that point. It's important not just to clear the ball and get it away, but it's important of where that ball is placed when you do clear it. Because if there is an opponent on the midfield line who is ready to attack that ball as it comes over, you then lead yourself into more woes because you have no boost and now your opponent has the ball basically in your half. That's never a position that you want to be in. So it's not just about finding the long clear. It's about making sure that that long clearance avoids the opposing team. And that's exactly what we've done so far. Opportunity knocks there for Cam, but he can't knock it through. Just over half of this game gone. Ox Gaming trying to bring this one back, but a miss wide left will give Rounds the opportunity to move back forwards. Actually, they won't. Great shot from Lixa. Good save from Renshiro.
Lixa dropped down, won't be collected by his teammate. Instead, it'll be Cam as that demo comes through. That had to be a touch from Willow. He's done just that, and Renshiro with a nice little chip to guarantee that one goes into the net. And this highlights how lethal Rounds can be from anywhere. They were just dealing with a shot on their own net, and all of a sudden, Renshiro with a perfect little pop to make it 2-0.
Let me tell you right now, with Rounds, there is always a go-ahead opportunity. There's always someone downfield. If you just want to send it towards the opposing net, there will be a player there ready to take advantage of that moment. And that's exactly what Renshiro does there. Moves downfield, gets in good positions, and makes sure that the goal is found. Daylight now for Rounds against Ox Gaming. Willu down the left-hand side will be blocked away. Now Lixa trying to come through, and Renshiro lays waste to that chance. Cam goes over one, but again, there's a defense coming through from Lixa. And with a minute and a half to go, Quan, Ox Gaming have struggled to really get started in this game number 2. They will have an opportunity here, but Rounds deal with it and send it clear.
And Shiro takes that 50, and with low boost tallies, this could be it for Ox Gaming to officially enter the scoreboard. Technic to himself, and that's a great heads-up play to find a bump on the way out. If you can't find the ball, Technic was passing to himself, so just take him out of the play. Maz back towards the net. Cam won't find a touch, and that's going to open the door here for Ox Gaming to cut the lead in half.
We absolutely love a caster curse in this house. I said they struggled to get through. I said they struggled to find a start in this game. Well, they found it now, but there is only 61 seconds left for Ox Gaming to try and bring this one back. Rounds have still looked very good in an attacking sense, still looked very good in their defensive sense, to be honest. That was just an unfortunate triple commit. Is that going to find its home? No, just wide. Willu doesn't have the boost, but he does get the boost steal, which is now going to lead to an opportunity to attack, except it's been stuffed pretty quickly. Willu on the left side. Cam gets one, but he won't be able to find a way past Strutic. Renshiro on this near side, over the top, looking to stay with the play. Does wonderfully, looking for the pass. Cam comes through, but he doesn't find the finish. Still 30 seconds remaining. Rounds still ahead.
As long as they can maintain this pressure, they don't need a goal. They just need the time, although the insurance goal would make me a whole lot more comfortable. Willu driving to the back wall. He's done well to get over one. Doesn't have enough boost to reach up for the second. So Cam will retreat, and I hate this positioning. That was a really spooky. Rounds have locked themselves here in a corner. Can they maintain this goal? And Cam's just going to chip it all the way downfield, and now Ox Gaming have to go from coast to coast. But Technic has fumbled the ball in the corner, and that will do it. It got a little bit dicey at the end there, Rhino, but Rounds do walk away with the Game 2 victory.
It certainly did, and even with a little bit of a shout out to our new assistant coach, Spooky. Good to have you on board. As rounds, it's not quite as simple as it was going to be, is it? Game number 1 looked very comfortable, looked super well. Let's just say what it was. It was easy for rounds. They were able to find ways through the Ox Gaming defense very, very easily. Whereas in this game number 2. It took a little bit more. It took a little bit more inventiveness. It took a little bit more creativity for rounds to be able to break down the wall that Ox Gaming had built. And there was just that miss on the backboard is the only blemish on an otherwise perfect record. And Quanzek, I'm not worried yet.
Well, I'm not worried, periods. That game was closer. It felt like it could have been tied. But that's a tough read on the back wall. Zero boost. It's a really difficult touch. That one near the end of regulation from Cam was much worse. He tried to get cute and cut that across the center with 2 seconds remaining on the clock and the game lead on the line. I don't like that one, but it didn't make me scared. I think this team still has it in them. I think we're headed towards sweep territory, but still one more frame of regulation to play.
Yeah, we do have to temper those expectations a little bit, Quan. We all saw what happened on Sunday. We all know that a 2-0 lead for rounds does not lead to a series victory. In half of our games, this was the case, and in half of those games, we won 1, lost 1. So we hope that rounds have learned from their mistakes and they go forwards in this game number 3 without an arrogant look, without a look that this game is already finished, and they are able to pull it through. But Lixa will try and pick this one up, gets demoed for his trouble. Cam doesn't get all of that, but he's got Renshiro in the middle. It's a bit behind him. Renshiro going to have to try and get a bit creative, gets a reset, might leave this one, was called off, and Willu doesn't commit there, but Cam might just be able to clean this one up in the corner, and does for the moment. Ball out of the corner. Willu will take control and will send it away.
Yeah, that whole sequence I'm not a fan of from rounds. Ever since Cam was awkward on the sidewall, I think you just let that sequence go. The longer you try to play it out, the more boost you expend, and as a result, this game's gotten really slow, and possession's been in Ox Gaming's favor because rounds burned about 150 boost on that play without really ever getting it out of their half. Don't want to see that moving forward. It's not a great start to this game 3, but we're still at an all tied up 0 apiece scoreline, so not much to actually be concerned about just from a technical coaching standpoint. Not a fan.
No, and I completely understand that, but again, as you've rightly said, there hasn't been a blemish on Rounds' record yet. That might change, no. Cam able to clean things up. Lixa gets the better of him, and I don't know about you, Quanzek, but again, from that analytical standpoint, but it just feels like Rounds have got a little bit slower in this game number 3, being a bit more methodical with each of their touches, which is causing Ox Gaming to be able to take advantage of those moments where we're overthinking a touch, where we're overplaying a moment, and that leads to Ox Gaming getting possession and being able to turn the tides of the series, but they haven't done yet. Renshiro, big interception off the ceiling. Cam able to get in front. Renshiro's still in the play, off the backboard. Willu looks for the shot and finds it too, and pays waste to any of our concerns. Rounds lead 1-0.
Yeah, I mean, Rounds, they haven't really had a genuine scoring opportunity outside of this one, so the efficiency is on point. Rounds 1-0, but I do think your highlight, your analysis there, Rhino, was correct. I mean, it's just Rounds have been playing much more methodical, and I think that's less so on them and more so on Ox Gaming. They've controlled possession this time around, so Rounds have to be very careful with where they're placing the ball, because if they do just give it away when they get possession or get a chance to flip the tides, it's going to come back to harm them in big ways. We can set those woes to the wayside for now, though, as Rounds have had that go-ahead goal, and they look to be in a much more comfortable sitting ever since. A good flip by Renshiro. He has 0 boost, but he doesn't need any. He's just going to find the pop in the back of the net.
The Finn firing on all cylinders early in GSL. Absolutely taking out everybody on the Ox Gaming side. Just the one-on-one ability of someone like Renshiro is such a joy to watch when he gets the opportunity to do it. His meandering runs, the way he's able to get those flicks and tricks in and maintain possession is so cool to see. There will potentially be an answer here from Ox Gaming, but a recovering tackle is brilliant. And Rounds continue to have a perfect record in this game number 3. It will be Strutic to send it away down the side. Renshiro misses, but Wilu fixes up. Renshiro, big pinch across. Bit too heavy, but Rounds now in the driver's seat.
With this 2-0 advantage, I think they can get pretty comfortable too. I don't advise putting your feet up on the dash, but that's something that Rounds could definitely do in this scenario. Technic. Controlling touch. It doesn't take the bounce that he wants. He's going to leave it over to Lixa. As that one I don't love, but that Ox Gaming I think was a bit desperate. He's just giving up possession straight over to Rounds. And now Wilu can operate how he wants. That's a great touch though from Baz, opening up the door for Lixa. Can't get it around the final defender. A drop down from Ox Gaming. Doesn't find a recipient anywhere. Willow has to avoid a bump. Now he's in danger. It's off the board. Back out. How is that not gone in?
Great question. That was really the Ox Gaming way of getting back into this game. It's not happened for them. The crossbar hits. And now Rounds, with 40 seconds, should be able to just coast to this 3-0 victory, and I'm made to look very, very silly indeed. But I'm okay with that. I absolutely don't mind that in the slightest, as long as it's this way around. Not minding that one bit as Technic drops this down. But Quan, outside of maybe the first minute of game number 3, where we didn't really like the look of what we were seeing in front of us, this has been a very professional game from Rounds.
Yep, I think, you know, even when they weren't at the forefront of the action, when they weren't dictating the pace of play, that was in Ox Gaming's hand in that opening minute, Rounds did well to respond to it. They slowed down the game intentionally. They tried to place the ball in better areas, and all in all, Rounds walk away with a very clean sweep, one that I can't poke a whole lot of holes in, and completely disavows our slow start antics that we were talking about the entire time.
And we never have to talk about it again until it rears its ugly head in Open 2. But for the moment, we just don't need to talk about it. That's a wonderful, wonderful work coming through from Rounds. They did everything right, everything that we asked of them. And we actually have someone now who was able to avoid a real-life fire. Sir Pegasus coming back into the room. And who put a fork in the toaster, man? Who did it? Tell me.
We're completely burnt. They sent off my fire alarm. Rounds are also on fire. That's all combined. Yes, it in fact end up having my university fire alarm go off. Everyone had to abandon the building. But we're back now, and we're safe, and we can keep this day moving. If I was the sacrifice that had to go to the fire for that Rounds performance, by golly, I'll take it. Because what a first series that was. That was... frankly, well, you'll see, not part of my expectations in this first series. We were speaking about those slow starting natures that Rounds can sometimes enter a tournament with, but you know what else we forgot, ladies and gentlemen? That there's a new coach added to the mix. Check out the Rounds Twitter, ladies and gentlemen, or the chat over here. Spooky has joined the team, and I'm not going to say that win was all him, but I'm just saying... Pre-spooky and post-spooky is looking awfully different right now.
Yeah, correlation does not always equal causation, but in this case, I want to credit Spooky with the work that he's done with the boys over the last 24 hours, clearly coming in and making a difference, because that was certainly the best I've seen Rounds play in this Open. It was professional, it was calculated. Every touch felt like it had meaning to it. There was no clear the ball, we'll figure out what to do later. There was no kind of stress looking like it was coming from the players. I'm really, really happy with the way that worked out. And we actually, of course, had myself and Quan's predictions, but we never got to see Sir Pegasus's predictions because we had to get into the game and his fire alarm went off and all kinds of things. So let's see what the SSA native has to say about this bracket.
Second gen immigrant, ladies and gentlemen, you gotta trust me on this. I believed Rhino in that first round, game 5.
He's
sure, whatever. At least we'll take down Ox Gaming. But boys,
Done it.
I'm disappointed. Where's the passion? Where's the love of the game? Renshiro's on 140 past 2. How could you deny this upper finals? 5 fears, trust me, are going down. They're going into that lower bracket. Rounds are going to get their first game 5 of the day. I thought it'd be their second. Frankly, I'm happy they're going in there with much more momentum behind them. They're going to be quick out the gates. They're going to recover themselves well. And this is going to be the matchup that is going to be on the lips of everyone during that next Just Saying episode. And we're already off to a fantastic start because 5 fears have swept White Rabbit Gaming. I don't think that was too... many people's surprise, to be quite honest with you. In fact, Quansec, I'll give you some props here. You agreed with me on that one, but where our 2 predictions are very, very different. Me and Rhino agreed on rounds going through, Cosmico going through, 5 fears going through. That was the same as you. Synthesis, though, has been the deal breaker. Obviously, it's because I've got them going up against Team 10. Sorry, I've got them going up against 5 fears in that lower finals, but that's after losing in that first round to Synthesis. So I want to ask you, Quanza, you're saying that Swiss stage was not a fluke, this team's the real deal. I'm just throwing it out there.
Were you thrown out there? Is there an end to that sentence?
Yeah, I was asking,
you did say I need to ask you.
What do you think about Team 10? Is that the real deal? Is this the team I should be looking out for? Have I underestimated them? I have got them going all the way. I've got them beating Astronic, at least in Game 5. But there's just something about Synthesis to me at the moment. I do love Meshian as well as a player. I know there's a bit of a rivalry between these 2 orgs because of pre-season, Quan. But what's the difference between those 2 teams for you?
I was really underwhelmed by Synthesis and Swiss. I mean, I think we talked about them a lot internally about being like a quality roster. And the fact that they were in the 2-2 stage of the Swiss and nearly struggling to get out, and I didn't think their opposition was like that hard of a draw either. I think they've just had a stinker of a performance in the Swiss stage, and I'm assuming that carries over to GSL, because if Team 10 can ride the wave that they had, they should be sitting pretty. And you know what, Pig? The fact that you have gone ahead and voted for rounds, which I'm not going to call you out for against 5 fears. We're on the rounds team stream.
Yeah.
But the fact that you have also gone and given double sweeps over to 5 fears in the rounds where they aren't playing rounds, like, you know how good a team they are, but you don't think they're gonna struggle at any other point. Their only 5 game, the only game they lose at all is against rounds. I'm a little bit curious about that takeaway.
I didn't hear anything wrong in those sentences you just said. You acted like it was obvious. I heard that tone in your voice, by the way, and frankly, I don't like it. We'll be talking about that off stream. Rounds are a top team in their own right, and I feel like today is going to be that day to prove it. But I need to go and get some smoke out of my lungs. I'm going to take some time to myself here because it's time for an ad break. Ladies and gentlemen, that was an excellent first series. A sweep to get ourselves started. Let's keep that winning streak going. No one, yes, no one can stop us. See you then.
What if I told you, from now on, the only thing you need for gaming is this desk? Uneven Base is a complete esports setup. It includes a powerful computer, keyboard, mouse, and monitor. All in one, lightweight build. Uneven Base is foldable, portable, and easy to set up. Perfect gaming experience wherever you want. And of course, yeah, there's RGB. Uneven Base. Now it's about you.
Pidä taloutesi hallinnassa pelin sisällä ja sen ulkopuolella.
Siis mikä voi olla niin tärkeää, että äijä ei näy 2 viikkoon? Äijä on tullut takaisin. No niin, let's go. Pitkästä aikaa pelikenttä.
Tervetuloa Prozoneen.
Tervetuloa Prozoneen.
Tervetuloa Prozoneen.
Oh, I dream just to be where you are, in a world I can see where you are, though you are meant to be. Wish you're here next to me, where you are.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We just saw Rounds take on Ox Gaming in a very convincing sweep. It was myself and Sir Rhino on the cast as we saw some goals go in from Rounds, and they looked really good doing it. Team play, solo, mechanical efforts, ultimately walking away in some really tight-knit games. I'm going to give Ox credit. Then, unfortunately, the score box is going to show with them losing in sweeping fashion. But onward we go to the next stage of GSL. And I know, Pig, you were dealing with the fire in the midst of that series. But from the little bit you could glean since you worked on the cast, what do you think overall of Round's opening performance?
Well, I was freezing outside of my building, and I did actually have a Twitch stream up on my phone, and it gave me that extra little bit of warmth that I definitely needed outside here in the UK autumn, because that was an excellent first performance. The type of performance, guys, that should have been giving you a little bit of confidence. So again, I've got no idea what those predictions are about. Mine is going to reign the same moving forward. We're getting rid of this 5 Fears team. Top 6 is not going to be their destination.
Well, you see the bracket update here. Officially, the upper semifinals have all closed out. It was indeed 5 Fears over White Rabbit in sweeping fashion. Rounds over Ox in sweeping fashion, which none of us had, actually. We didn't have the confidence in Rounds walking away in the sweep. Cosmico over the top of Astronic, and Team 10 over the top of Synthesis. So Pegasus, you asking me about, oh, what do you make of that? Oh, Team 10, Synthesis, blah, blah, blah. Shh, Take
Wow.
that.
It was an excellent series as well. We actually did get an opportunity to watch the final game of that. It does actually look really tight between those two teams, but we've been saying this throughout the entire run up to this season. This is going to be the closest season of SSA that we have ever seen, and Team 10 wasn't even one of those teams that was on my roster when I initially said that heading into this season. So somehow those expectations have continued to be surpassed. So if you're not following the Rounds channel, if you're not following Greybeard, if you're not throwing, of course, the mainstream as well, you better do it right now, because this is the season of SSA. But if you miss it, you're going to be sad that you were not there.
Agreed. Well, we have our next matchup on the docket, and 5 Fears is the name. We got a cheeky little wordplay from our producer on the home screen coming up. And look, this is the team to beat. They're one of two that are gonna be. They'll have their target on their backs the entire year through SSA. Everybody thinks they're going to be the 1 and 2 front runners, the major contenders. But Rounds has a chance here, Rhino. And look, do you agree with Pig that Rounds is going to win? Obviously not. Your prediction didn't say so, but we'll see what's happening as we'll take a look at both these rosters.
Yeah, and Rostermania hit SSA just as hard as it did any other region. The indomitable group that used to run this region of Snowy, Sweaty, and To Die For, officially broken up for the first time in 2 seasons. And it is in favor of this roster on one side of the equation. Snowy Guns picking up the Spaniard Tecos, who, it's fair to say, has had a few looks around the regions in history. Of course, he was in APAC for Split 2 in 2025. He now joins SSA for this season, and he is an X factor wherever he ends up. He can make stuff happen out of absolutely nowhere. One of the iconic players who you just watch sometimes in awe of. That kind of 1v1 mentality of, I'm just going to run through the entire team and score at the end of it. And Tecos is a lot of fun to watch. We're going to have to watch out for him in this game if we have a chance.
Yeah, he's going to be the man to watch. And we got a little bit of inside intel from you earlier, Rhino, that Tecos is actually on SSA team.
Sure is.
He is not playing from north of the region. He is playing in-house, and 24 ping will be what he is playing on. So that's one of the only teams to have their import in the region. So that's going to add even more danger, firepower to this roster. Pig, I mean, you have Rounds walking away here with the victory. How do they do it?
Well, walking away, I feel like crawling out of this matchup. I do still have it going to Game 5, guys. Let's not forget. It's got to be about... They've got to get that grit. They've got to keep that mental ongoing. And I want them to catch 5 Fears a little bit off guard here. I'm sure that everyone's expectations, realistically, heading into this series is it should be 5 Fears. I don't think they are expecting any problems in the GSL stage whatsoever. In fact, I don't believe they feel like they're going to face any problems until potentially they have to face the likes of even Looking For Organization, Pioneers, a little bit later down the line where they have some of those other Spaniards to face as well. But for Rounds, it is going to be all about that front-footed playstyle, and I just don't want to see them lie down against these opponents. They have to play their own game. They have to dictate the play, and these are 3 players that can do so. We beat a Spaniard in Game 5 to qualify for the GSL. We're going to beat a Spaniard in Game 5 to qualify to the hybrid.
Well, there's a lot of weight put into that, but look, if there's any matchup for me to be proven wrong on, I would love to be shown, hey, you know what? Rounds has it, and I am misplacing my faith in the team stream that I am covering. It is going to be a David versus Goliath matchup here. 5 Fears with the target on their back, in Rounds, the first opportunity to topple them. Renshiro, Willu, and Cam will get their opportunity against Five Fears. Can they prove that this team is not worth fearing? Rhino and Sir Pegasus on the cast for you guys, ladies and gentlemen.
Here we go then. Top 6 beckons for the winner of this series. The bridesmaids, but never the brides in Willu and Cam coming through to try and topple the top of the region. Let's get it underway, Pegasus. Five Fears versus Rounds.
Well, you talk about being the bridesmaid. We had a little bit of a conversation about guns before this series began. Still yet to see a grand final in SSA or RLCS altogether. We mustn't forget that some people are skipping regions all over the place. But this looks like it is his best opportunity to do so. Currently standing in their wave, though, is going to be this round's roster. But early, quick out the gates, we've already seen 2 scary strikes coming from Five Fears. One forced with a save, second off the crossbar, third off the crossbar as well. It's only 30 seconds.
Expect to see a lot of this. Five Fears, they are going to have their rotations on lock. They're going to make sure that they get shots on net. And it's guns pass to Tekos in the midfield after not the best clearance coming through from our Finnish representatives. It is 1-0.
Very, very quick starts. They're getting those sidewalls. They've got those mechanics fresh. Tekos on low ping. It's going to be a really dangerous force. Tekos is a player that is a little bit of a strange case for me personally, Rhino, because I remember when he was coming up in the scene, he looked like the future of Spanish Rocket League in the European region. But now we've seen him skip about a little bit. He had his times on teams like Synergy in Europe, but now moving on to APAC and SSA, he's been happy to just take this 1/3 rule on the roster now that that rule has been implemented. And I would say I'm surprised, but when you feel like you've got a potential seat at Worlds close to guaranteed, of course you've got Pioneers this season, gotta understand why they take the plunge.
You do, but in every single region you go into, it's not that simple. Hello! Hang on just a moment here. So Willu collects this. The 50 comes through. It goes in Willu's favor. Guns, where you at, son? He's got no one around him. I thought there was a bump on the goal line or something. No, it's 1-1.
Excellent. This is what I said I wanted from the roster. I didn't want them to play afraid. I wanted them to get forward when they had the opportunity to do so. I just don't want to see them waste any of those few opportunities, because they are going to be few and far between when you are facing a team like Five Fears. But Rounds already showing me that they have potential to initiate this efficiency. Now you've just got to keep it consistent.
That wasn't even an opportunity, though, to Pegasus. That wasn't even something we had the opportunity with. That one was. Cam coming through, just going to miss wide right off the target. That's Rounds attacking as well as we would hope. Cam, not a great touch. Makes the best of it, and then only finds Snowy, the captain of Five Fears, comes through to give Rounds another fear to consider. Cam gets past one. With 0 boost in that position, you just don't want to end up there, and that's exactly what happens. So Five Fears 2-1 up against Round.
We've all been in that position. You want to control that ball down. You want to keep it flat towards the ground and straight up the wall. Instead, it bounces off. A brutal way, of course, to lose that lead. As a demo as well on the goal line, it gets even more gory. Snowy's going to find this one inside. Third goal comes through here for Five Fears. This one, though, off their own accord. No real mistakes here coming from Rounds. Just a player caught a little bit off guard there by the high-facing man, but this is what you're going to look out for the rest of this series. That's a warning.
It certainly is, and it's an indication of what's to come, as you rightly say, from Five Fears. They want to play this style of Rocket League. They really want to be in your face at all times, peppering shots on net, and Rounds want to do that as well. This is a good lesson in the way that Rounds want to play the game from a team that have pretty much mastered it at this point. Snowy pass, Guns takes a shot, it's missed wide right, but with just over half the game gone and a 3-1 lead, Five Fears aren't going to be too worried about missing some of these opportunities. Snowy will still want to pad those stats, and with a hat-trick, he's doing just that.
Bruising the fingertips of Cam as well in net. There was great power find behind the strike, and if it was any less onto it, Cam was surely going to be sending that one out, as the gameplay could continue, and of course there would still be that 2-goal difference, which can feel like a death sentence at times, especially when you're playing a team that's not going to allow you the privilege of possession like Five Fears do. However, now, you've got to remember, best of 5 series is only game 1. It's the first real taste. There have been a few scrims against high-level opponent, but I've actually heard no mention of this roster from the players.
No, me neither, and that's going to be an interesting one, and we've already talked about him quite a lot on stream so far today. Of course, the new acquisition for Rounds Rocket League is Spooky, the mental coach, and it's, like it or not, it's games like this that he will be mostly brought in for, because when things go so far against you in Rocket League, just like this one, it really does feel pretty rough for the players, and they need to be brought out of that mentality of, oh, we're just not quick enough, we're just a second behind them, we're not quality enough to be matching up against this team. That's not true, and you need to remember that, and you need someone to remind you of that. Rounds have the ability to match up against a team like this. The problem is all mental. The problem is all in their head, and sometimes when you've got a Goliath team like Five Fears, like Pioneers, you just strike that fear in you from the first second, and suddenly you just think the game's gone.
Absolutely, but march on, must continue. Willow's done well to keep that ball low. Not going to fall for that same mistake yet again, but it's going to be low boost all round, and that's going to be a trend that will continue if you allow Five Fears to just run all over you. They like to play that high press, they like to get aggressive off the ball, and that's not necessarily in that physical sense. They're competing for those pads as well. It's just overall boost control. They squeeze out their opponents. This Boa Constrictor tightens once more. Tekos with the 6th. Don't reach for him, Rhino. Don't you dare. Keep those glasses away. I'm not having you put them on against Rounds.
It's my brand, Pegasus. It's my brand. You got to do it. It happens. It's 48 seconds to try and prevent it. Rounds, it's not the greatest start to this series. I think everyone knows that. Snowy wants to make it a Brazil, and we are indeed heading to South America, another one of those regions that can sometimes feel like a 2-team or a 3-team region. Well, SSA is looking similar, 7-1, but 42 seconds to try and make sure that we don't see the glasses on stream.
Of course, but we've seen high scorelines in games get flipped rather quickly in those that follow. Unfortunately, that's been mostly against the favour of Rounds, but now it's time to give opponents a little bit of a taste of the medicine they've tried themselves, and it doesn't taste nice whatsoever. Licorice, not my favourite. Snowy. Off that right wall, Tekos can't catch. Guns is waiting deep inside, but he doesn't go too early on this one. Waits for that first mistake. Buys his time to use his empty jump. Fakes on the third as well. They're getting creative. They're trying to mind game the defense. They know that Rounds are aware of the capabilities of their opponents, and that fear factor, the impact of those nameplates can certainly be felt. Five Fears, their introduction to the RLCS, will be taking the first game versus Rounds.
Yeah, they will. I mean, we won saves. Look, you know,
we did.
Four saves to 1. Five Fears defense bad? Question mark. No, but on a serious note, Rounds never really looks to be at the speed of Five Fears in that game. A couple too many double commits, a couple too many triple commits. It just felt like Rounds were scared. It felt like they were playing like they'd already lost the game in minute 1, and that was a real concern. And our fears proved true. And we mentioned that Five Fears, of course, might have 6 fears at the end of this. Well, maybe they actually have 1 less fear now, and it's down to 4.
Absolutely, but we've still got.
I don't want to
see that.
I didn't want to do it.
I'm not going to be seeing that. Okay, that's disgraceful. That's disgraceful. And I will be talking to Rounds to make sure you are off this broadcast. But That's going to be one of those games that you're going to bull up, you're going to throw it behind you, you're going to move on. Of course, there are going to be a few lessons to take out of it, but that felt like there was a little bit of a mental difference there. They would not be playing that way defensively against Ox Gaming. They didn't play that way defensively against Ox Gaming, and they're not even a slouch team.
No.
They're still one of those strong teams in this region, but there's something about Five Fears, that just get those boots quaking that any opponents that do face them. I don't want to see Rounds fall into that trap. Camvo will give us an early start coming off that back wall. That demo over the second man isn't going to leave anyone available there to collect. It's an early challenge coming from Weelu to get that ball towards Guns, but these sidewalls that have been attempted throughout the 5 opening minutes of the series do return here in the second with that same layer of success.
Well, they're going to try, and there's an opportunity. It's a good save by Renshiro and a good demo as well to make this a 2v3 for the moment. Five Fears moving across into the middle, but these clearances, we talked about it in game number 1, where Rounds were finding the clearances where there weren't any opponents, where they were measuring each of those clearances really nicely. In this game, it's not been the same story. They've been finding those clearances out to the midfield, but that's exactly where a Five Fears member is. Chance here for Guns. And he just misses by a whisker. Still 0-0 after a minute of gameplay, but Five Fears already starting to show their teeth.
Can take this one towards the left wall. Renshiro picks up that boost behind. I liked that ground pinch attempt from Cam, but it was just read well by the defensive force on the other side coming in from the corner. This is something that these players do better than most. Corners are safe, corners are defensively favoured. Not when you've got Tekos with just this bag of tricks, enough to fool out the Rounds defense. A deserved first goal for Five Fears, but still a subdued force compared to the first.
Certainly, and that is going to feel pretty good for Rounds. The fact that they've been able to keep Five Fears to, 1 goal in a minute and a half is weirdly actually a... Okay. All right. Well,
continue.
It's technically longer than a minute and a half, so what I was saying isn't wrong. But yeah, I mean, they are just so attacking, aren't they? So aggressive, and we'll probably we've said it so many times. We will say it so many more times about this Five Fears side. They don't need to defend because they just camp in your half until they score.
That second goal, though, that was fearing a higher power. That flip had been used rather early, and by that point you should be able to see the trajectory ahead of you, and still the Rounds defense played as if that touch was going to come off. That's what led them absolutely faked. That's what ended up having a back post that was covered, left completely open. But no matter if you're back or not, Tekos, if he finds control, that is a fluid drag off the ground. He can find the top corner. He can make all your biggest fears come true. Goal free. Just shy of 2 minutes gone in the second. Rounds still looking to get a wheel in the game.
Yeah, and doing their best to do so, right? We've seen more attacking in this particular game than we did in game number 1, which I do like to see. They are starting to come out of their shell a little bit. But Five Fears, I mean, here comes Guns. Such great control, and Guns is only going to go strength to strength this season, you have to say, because of the fact that he's able to work with Tekos, who is an absolute mastermind when it comes to those mechanics. And that chip shot over the top is not going to find its home, and Shiro able to send it away. But Guns being able to work with Tekos and learn from him and get more opportunities like that, yeah, he's going to absolutely fly this season. Will easily be one of the top 3 players probably in the region by the end of the season, if he's not already. And I can't sing the praises of him enough. I know he's made some mistakes in his career, but as a Rocket League player, just sensational.
For me, he's already of that accord. I do think he is one of the best South African players to exist. I think top 5 is a pretty fair record, and with goals like that, are you really going to argue against him? He's on a star-studded roster and is still able to take the spotlight.
Yeah. 2 minutes to go in game number 2. And, Willu might be able to come through with an extra goal here. So Rounds won't get shut out in either of these games. That is a true statement. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on.
It is.
Pegasus.
It is indeed. I mean, we speak about the 2/3 rule being in place for Sub-Saharan Africa, so you have to have two typically South African players, but of course there is the rise of Reunion as well in the scene. Well, Five Fears have really took that to another level, because not only do they have a 2/3 rule of just South Africa in general, they've got a 2/3 rule of a Team South Africa team for FIFA E.
Yeah.
So this is the best of the best, put alongside Tecos, who is a Spanish giant in my eyes. Like I said, I do really feel like he could be competing for Europe as well at the highest level.
Yes.
Never was going to be an easy matchup. It's proven not to be an easy matchup, and still, you're seeing rounds not exactly sitting back. They are trying to get themselves out of defense and keep this force moving forward, and that already does put me in a step in the right direction, but you've still got a couple miles to go.
What I'm seeing right here is that Rounds' heads aren't dropped, right? They're still battling for every ball. They're still able to get in front of things, and that really does say a lot about the resolve of this team, about the mentality of this roster, because it would be so easy to just down tools, say GG go next, and, you know, I don't think anyone would really debate them doing that. But the fact that they're still in this lobby, they're still fighting for every single ball, they're still trying to put things forwards, that's all I really want to see, because that gives us the best chance if we do go into that lower bracket, which it's still not confirmed that we will. But if that does happen, then we've shown that we're not out of it mentally. We're not starting to struggle with things in our own heads and getting in our own heads. At this point, Five Fears are winning. Yes, they are absolutely dominating this series, but rounds are still about. Rounds are still making it difficult for them, and I love that.
Absolutely. They've kept this ball moving. There's a second goal there for Cam as well, just outside the 6-yard box. Finds that top corner, and it's a great snipe here against what everyone is considering easily a top 2 team in the region. I'm going to throw a little bit of a controversial view your point here, Rhino. For me, this Five Fears roster was always number 1. Pioneers got that AUG early, and I feel like that was a little bit of an AUG effect for me personally, that people were rating that team higher, because I just don't think you can deny these 3 players. There's a little bit of a talk of the, you know, off the pitch action and whether they can keep themselves locked in and how that reflects. But when you've got these 3 players moving, debt ceiling, I believe, is the highest that SSA has to offer.
And this is what's great about Rocket League, is that it's subjective, right? You know, you can look at 2 people can look at the same thing and come away with a different conclusion. I will still, until proven otherwise, argue that Pioneers are the number 1 team in this region, and just based on the quality that they have. There is a lot of stock being put into the import that both teams are using, and I completely understand that, but I mean, Luis P and Tecos, for me, the difference is in, obviously they play very, very differently on the field, but for me, I just see Luis P having a more measured approach to the way that he plays Rocket League. Every touch is thought through. Yes, Tecos is probably better mechanically, and I won't take that away from him. But in a team context, when you're trying to slot into a new team, I would probably rather have Luis P in my roster than I would Tecos. And that might be a big statement for people. People might not agree with that. But that's just my personal opinion. We will find out this weekend, though, and that's the important thing.
A lot of weight's being put onto this import tier list. I really want to get us here on RDR Prod to do at some point, because there is going to be some controversial opinions here. But I mean, how wonderful is it that we can have this conversation in the first place? Because we were not having this conversation in the past few seasons of SSA. In fact, we were having these conversations and they were not even including SSA players if it was in that position. But no, you do have to die for Sweaty, Snowy, Guns, and most importantly, Weelu and Cam. Game 3 is underway. Reverse sweep has to be used here for rounds if they want to see themselves also qualify in that top 6, but Five Fears are not going to be slowing down anytime soon.
Certainly aren't. Rounds have been reverse swept so far in this open. Can they battle back and make it happen against them? And Guns already bringing out the tricks and flicks in game number 3. He doesn't score from it, but another early warning sign for rounds that sometimes Guns is just going to go on those solo runs and make them look really good.
Tekos off that back wall. A lovely initial catch. He's able to use his flip as well. 0 boost just to catch it once more. Keeps the defense guessing. Doesn't even have to use it to stay behind. But Cam's opportunity now to take this ball forward. Shut down quickly here by Guns in the corner. And if he's not available, Snowy certainly is. We'll lay that ball forward once more. Able to catch it, but Cam's able to respond. It's a bit more back and forth. I like that I'm changing teams in this little run of breath here. Bumps coming in from Tekos, however. Will send that ball back forward. This is certainly the closest passage of play we've had so far, though neither team really having that eye for net. But have I called it too early? Ball inside. Yep. It's Tekos. One play from the corner. Like I said, no other team in the region does this as well.
They certainly don't. And something we've actually not touched on at all, Sir Pegasus, which I think we would be remiss not to speak about at all in this series, is the fact that Cam and Guns are previous teammates. They played on Cosmico in Split 1, Open 1. So these are two players that know each other very, very well. And that was, of course, with Werty at the time. And that was the third best team in the region, right? Cam, Guns, Werty, if memory serves, they came third in that first, or fourth and third. Sorry, I should be very clear. Top 4.
We saw your tweet.
We saw, everyone saw my tweet. Everyone knows that I get angry about that. So, you know, they came top 4, and I think that's where a lot of faith has come from in the sense of Cam and Willu, because they were a part of that Cosmico roster. And it's interesting to see now that they've come away from Guns. Guns has been able to extend into this 5 Fears roster where he now feels like he's one of the top 2 teams by everyone in the region, arguably top 1 by some people in the region. And you know, that's just the way that these careers have gone so far. But I'd love to see Cam kind of represented and being able to get up to those dizzying heights as well.
Absolutely, but as these seasons have moved forward, it can be really tough when you're one of those players that can see your opponent, your former teammate, doing so well. You're facing the brunt end of it, but then you look at the team around you and you got Renshiro available outside that 6-yard box. You have to be high pressed. You have to be confident. You have to have that intention if you're going to catch any of those opportunities. Sure, the open net was left there by 5 Fears, but it requires an extra bit of effort for someone to be there in the first place to tap it in. Renshiro takes it to the corner, and already they're looking for 2.
And I like to see this, right? Coming through from rounds. 3-0 down relatively early on, just about to get to the halfway mark. But I saw some boost stealing. I saw some very aggressive plays coming through from rounds. They don't look scared. They don't look like a team that is concerned to be playing against 5 Fears. They want to play their game. If they lose playing their game, then so be it. But they're not going to turn away from the plan that they'd put together. Because you know for a fact that in this time that they've had after the bracket was released, they knew they were going to be getting into this game. They knew they were going to be playing against 5 Fears. The plan might not have worked, but why would you deviate from a plan that you've put together during the week? There's no reason to. So rounds are doing exactly that, and this is arguably the best we've seen them play in the series. Opportunity to get back within 1. It hits the post, and 5 Fears can clear.
Ball back down center, and it's a bit of a bunch up there from 5 Fears. They find their spacing rather quick. That demo doesn't land on Renshiro. And if that landed, that would have been the costly strike. That would have been goal number 4, though that feels like that's just a time extended, because off that back wall, it's Guns again. So fast, so fluid, and in these tight positions, still able to cut his way across. A little mind game as well snuck inside. And the compliments really do not end for this player. This is going to be his season to really shine.
Yeah, and a lot of 5 Fears kind of success this season will come down to the way that Guns is playing. And it is a lot of pressure to put on a young player, but he needs that pressure. He is the third man in this 5 Fears team. He is what some people might be referring to as an unknown quantity. And for that reason, he kind of needs to be making his name in this 5 Fears roster, and he's doing that already this game. Weelu, on the other hand, he's making his name on the Rounds roster. Cam able to find the pass across. Tekos taken for a ride. Snowy in no man's land. And Rounds still able to find moments.
Cam and Weelu consistently have these little blips where they put together something extravagant, and they're looking like the likes of your Gunses, your Snowies, with the way they get these passes across. They get that little bit more creative, mechanical as well, and they can just change the course of the game. When those players start to get a little bit more consistent with that as this season progresses, I feel like they're the two dark horses that not a lot of people are talking about nearly as much as they should do. Of course, there is a little bit of a conversation around Reunion as a whole, but that's a duoship that once it fully forms alongside Renshiro, who's a player who can create that space for his teammates to just pass across, it's going to be night and day once we reach the end of this split.
Yeah, you would think so, and certainly with the way that these players are grinding and the coaches that we have as part of Rounds, it's an incredible organization who really invest in their talent, and they're doing just that, and you would expect to see an improvement in not just ability, but cohesion in this Rounds roster, because Willow and Cam, you have to remember, were also members of that Cosmico roster, right? They've been playing together for longer than a season. They know each other's game, and as you rightly said, they work together so well. We are still waiting to see some of those 3-man plays from the entire roster, where you've got Renshiro pulling the strings, Willow passing into Cam, or vice versa, and you see that all come together in one wonderful symphony. But for the moment, you know, there are building blocks here that Rounds can use to their advantage.
Absolutely, and you know that the coaches are going to be looking at this game. They're going to see what they can take out of it. This isn't one of those teams that plays a roster like the likes of 5 Fears or Pioneers, and then after they lose, they go, oh, well, it was 5 Fears, it was Pioneers, what are you going to do? No, they think what's next. They think, how do we get to that level? How do we surpass that level? These are 3 professional mindsets on the Round roster. And that's what's going to instill my trust that they are going to improve as this season goes on. And when they've got that organisation back in, like you said, and those 2 coaches now behind them to help progress them through the motions, I've got to see how this matchup comes up again, because I'm sure they will play again in a 6 open season.
Yeah, you would think so. And hey, you know, this is going to be a good yardstick. Right, 5 Fears and Pioneers, those are the 2 teams that teams play against, and they go, right, that's a good measure of where we are in this region, and we can bring Quan back in as, the 3-0 sweep comes through, and, well, Pegasus, after playing an absolute blinder in the first round, has, started to struggle in the second.
Sadly, but I'm going to say exactly what I said the players shouldn't say. It is 5 Fears. It was always going to be that tough matchup. Sure. And I will say as well, I do not regret my prediction. Someone has to have some faith in the boys, and they will continue moving forward to have my confidence in them, because like I said, I know they're going to take this game. They're going to be looking at it closely. They're going to find out what those problems are, and they will patch them quick. But Quanzek, what was that like to watch from the rafters?
Lessons learned, for sure. I mean, it was a series of Rocket League of all time, and there's not a whole lot of staying on this that I think we should do. I mean, we expected 5 Fears to be a quality roster, and after that showing, I didn't think Rounds looked that out of position, or that out of sorts. I genuinely think 5 Fears just might have the major lock, or the major spot locked down. Pioneers, I don't think will be in contention after watching that, but we'll get to see how that plays out probably over the rest of the main event.
You 2 are crazy. Crazy.
What? I think you will see, right, especially with what we've heard internally from some of the rumblings around scrims in the SSA region. But yeah, we'll get an updated look at the bracket. We are the only matchup in the upper finals to finish thus far, is in sweeping manner, but that means we'll drop down to play the winner of Astronic or Synthesis, and I'm hearing from my producer that it will be Synthesis. Astronic has lost in sweeping fashion. They'll exit the day 0-6, finishing in top 8 of this side of the GSL.
Wow.
It'd be top 16 for them? No,
Top
it would be
16,
top
yeah. What do you mean?
No, top 8. Top 8. Top 8.
Top 8 if we win this next game.
Yes.
Okay, yes. Okay, yeah. I was right the first time. Your first instinct, ladies and gentlemen, is typically going to be more right than usual. But that was a series. I think rounds, you guys are 100% correct that once they're going to be professionals, they're going to look at the game. This is the best things to learn from, or when you lose, when you get routed, because then you have the most tools to look at and you can expand on your gameplay the most. But we'll go ahead and take a short break and get our next series underway. Our next bit of content good to go for you as rounds. We'll look to reset head into our last series of the day.
What if I told you, from now on, the only thing you need for gaming is this desk? Uneven Base is a complete esports setup. It includes a powerful computer, keyboard, mouse, and monitor, all in one lightweight build. Uneven Base is foldable, portable, and easy to set up. Perfect gaming experience wherever you want. And of course, there's RGB. Uneven Base. Now it's about you.
Pidä taloutesi hallinnassa pelin sisällä ja sen ulkopuolella.
Siis mikä voi olla niin tärkeää, että äijä ei näy 2 viikkoon? Äijä on tullut takaisin. No niin, let's go. Pitkästä aikaa pelikenttä.
Tervetuloa Prozoneen.
Tervetuloa Prozoneen.
Tervetuloa Prozoneen.
another week or will be not.
Get it while it's hot.
feel this tide choke my neck and I just wonder why I'm buried in a suit I'd never buy, a suit I'd never buy. Cufflinks on my wrist, I can't act surprised when the shovels hit dirt in the earth. Did they start to die? Since I 17.
5 fears striking fear into the hearts of everyone here in SSA, turning heads while doing it. Rounds, a team that came in with so much promise, with so much to play for, and 5 fears absolutely swept them out of the stadium. But this was not going to be the game to define round season. This was not going to be the game to define rounds open. We have got a lot more Rocket League to be played, and a top 8 is on the cards after this loss. Welcome back, everybody, to the Rounds team stream. I'm Rhino, joined, of course, by Sir Pegasus and Quanzek. And boys, this is now do or die time. Lower bracket, final opportunity, making it into mainstream territory. Pegasus, Rounds are going to have to pull something out of the bag in order to get there.
Certainly, especially with their level of opponents. Synthesis going to be those opponents, and we've spoken about throughout this entire season. I mean, me and Quantek were trying to do all the BU calculations. We thought this matchup was going to come a little bit earlier during the Swiss stage. Rounds versus Synthesis, when these teams were pre-announcements for their organizations. I believe that Rounds had basically had that all locked and loaded by that time. These are the two teams that played their show match. This was the first real sights of those two rosters moving forward, and unfortunately Rounds could not catch the dub. This time though, where the lights are brightest, RLCS lower bracket final round to try and get top 8. This is going to be not a fight, this is going to be war, Rhino.
Yeah, and you raised a very, very good point there, Sir Pegasus, in the fact that this game did indeed not look very good for Rounds a couple of weeks ago on the show match. However, it is now where the lights are brightest. It is now top 8, and it's Renshiro, Wilu, and Cam trying to make their way to mainstream against the team of Daps, Declan, and Meshin. Quan, this Synthesis roster was one that a couple of people had some question marks on before a ball was kicked this season, and I think it's fair to say they've not really answered their critics, going 3-2 in Swiss, struggling in this bracket, but they're here, and they're here to try and make it difficult for Rounds.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think while they haven't answered any questions, they've in fact made it worse. There's more questions I have about this roster and their performance. I mean, there was a lot of curiosity between these three players and what they could bring to the pitch, and their results have been very mixed. I mean, you can reach in and pull out a dominating win from the bag. You can also reach in and pull out a really lackluster, underwhelming loss. And I think they're just still working out the kinks. They need to get the ironing board out and make sure that everything is fresh and clean. And until that happens, it's going to be a coin flip as to how this team performs when it comes to them against Rounds. I'm going to prefer the Rounds side there. I think we all had this prediction coming in Rounds' favor, but that's not going to say that I don't think this is going to be a competition between Rounds and Synthesis. I think Synthesis can play. It just depends on how much of their team shows up.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the big game, right? This is the one that we all looked at as the one that we would come down to at the end of the day, except for Sir Pegasus, who predicted something else. But it is really now time for Rounds to step up and show that they are officially here in SSA to make a statement. Synthesis, a team that a lot of people believe really could make a lot of top 8 pushes. But we have to stop that in its tracks here in Open 1, and we are going to try our best. Rounds versus Synthesis takes to the stage, and it will be Renshiru, Wilu, and Cam with their first chance at making mainstream. Will they come through? Let's find out.
Bring it on. Top 8 bound revenge, a personal matchup to round off the day. Will it round off their first Open? That is yet to be decided. To bring you the action, myself and Quanzek for the final match of the day. And while heading into this one, you've got the likes of Declan and Daps on the opposing team. I'll tell you what, I've been stalking the ball chases, Quanzek, in the lead up to this season. I was trying to work out who that third man was going to be alongside him, because we knew that these two players were going to be teaming. And you'll never guess what I found. Renshiru with a few games alongside Daps and Declan's in private matches. Oh no! I don't know if they were just rounding off their teams, helping them scrim a little bit here, but Renshiru definitely has a little bit of background info on this roster. He's played alongside him.
Yeah, I mean, could have been a different team had that worked out. It sounds like Renshiru got in a little bit of a tryout or just filling in while they were trying to find the role that they wanted. It's obvious that Renshiru wanted to play an SSA, and maybe that was one of the rosters he went ahead and tried out alongside, but maybe that insider info, he gets some trading information that he can use to punish these guys on the back end, but instead it'll be Synthesis through Declan getting the opener here and punishing rounds.
We spoke about Wilu and Cam being that duo to really look out for in terms of SSA talent, the 2/3 on the roster. But Daps and Declan already showing why this is going to be a duo once more to add to that list. It's been established by quite some time. They knew that they were going to team up heading into this next season, and quick out the gates, we could already feel that impact. Rounds have got to be able to keep up. Machine is well to round off that roster. It was rumoured for a while after we'd seen the likes of Renshiru scrimming with those two that there was going to be a Hungarian on the roster. There aren't many in the scene, but as terms of Hungarian talent goes, 2,500 MMR peak and plenty of high-level performances in external tournaments. Machine is the perfect player to round off that roster.
Yeah, I think they've chosen well. It's just up to them clicking now and finding that unison between the three of them and growing as a roster, getting that chemistry, because, like I said, I've just been underwhelmed with their performances thus far, and of course that'd be the perfect way to capstone an upset loss into rounds, but I think with what this team has put on the table, I just haven't been that impressed. And maybe it's because I haven't watched a full series from them front to back, but these three players to me would have meant a much more higher firepower team as that one. Rifles off the near side post. Declan trying once more. Daps gets 3 to commit, and one of them will make contact for round. Synthesis, I don't think they performed up to my standards thus far of what the expectation was I set for them, but through half a game against rounds, they do look like the better team.
Renshiru will keep this ball close. 1v1s, that's what, of course, he's famous for. We can all see the image in our heads. Pops to the corner here. It's going to be Cam to pick this ball up. Declan is going to cut in between. Dap steals that ball first. Really will leave this one for Renshiru once more. He gets his second chance this time. Looks to try and find a teammate instead. That's too simple there, though. For Machine. Put on a plate. It gets even simpler for the opponents, but Daps just can't take. It wasn't quite an open net, but it's still one player of his caliber should be taking 10 out of 10 times.
Rounds definitely getting away with murder there. I mean, that one, having been a shot and that going off the post, Rounds need to thank their lucky stars. They also need to figure out a way to get some offensive going. That's a good pop-up touch, forces Mission to climb the ladder. He'll fall on top of it for a ground pitch around the side of Renshiru, who'll leave it for Wilu. Declan collecting on the backboard. Daps gets forcibly removed from the net, but Cam not winning the 50 means this is dangerous on the back end for Rounds. Daps centering pass over to Mesh and Declan. Gonna race against Wilu, and Rounds finally have a first semblance of life and pressure in this game, but it hasn't really generated to a scoring opportunity yet.
Certainly not. Still, A minute and a bit of change to go. Cam caught in his own corner is the wrong half of the pitch than we would like to see here for the roster. Wheelu's going to have to get it started from behind. Mission will cut into that ball quickly. Renshiro will take it over. It's a flip reset to get himself started. Cam will take that ball forward. And that's how you find the target. A little bit of a lesson there for opponents on the other side with the defense sending a lesson right on back. Renshiro with a quick block instead. It goes over. Machine plays for that back ball. Wheelu, though, is not going to be fooled that easily. Play definitely hasn't closed. It's rather open for both sides, but it's that woodwork that's been the bane for both teams.
Will it matter for the last 30 seconds? Rounds still need one, having to avoid a bump, another one, and that's going to open up the net, forces a double. Rounds get back. That's the time you do want a double to guarantee the save. Pass infield, that one right of the net. Daps can't get though. That means Renshiro temporarily uncontested. Foot reset underneath, forces two. Cam! The shot is not where it needs to be. And Round still searching for an equalizer. Wheelu tried to go to Cam. That's a good dunk by Meshin though, and that's going to force Rounds to go from one end of the pitch to the other. They won't be able to keep it alive. And Synthesis, only one goal scored the entire game. It was enough to take game one.
And I'm rummaging right now in the trash bin. What did we say earlier today? Slow starters, not anymore. We'll throw that idea out the window. I'm going to bring it right on back here for the final series of the day. Not exactly a slow start. I feel like that is a bit harsh. Of course, we don't take this first game. It was an early goal coming from Synthesis, and then Round were able to inflict a little bit of extra pressure down the line. It's just still leaps and bounds away from what we know Round are completely capable of. This is a team that they can put in full force. They can make it a one-sided matchup. They can slap about essentially any team in this tournament, bar maybe a few, and we really felt that in the uppers. But here in the lowers, this is where teams like Rounds really have to take charge, especially with the ambitions that this roster has.
I'm going to go ahead and cut them a little bit of slack, Pig. I do agree with you. Technically, it's a slow start, but I think it's a bit harsh. When you're rebounding from the series that you just played against Five Fears, like, there's going to be a little bit of a grace period there to get accustomed to a series that was not as turbulent as that last one was. And here against Synthesis, yeah, you do drop game one, but it wasn't all bad. I do think Rounds found their footing once we dropped underneath that 2-minute mark, and whether they can parlay that into a better performance heading into game two remains to be seen. But it does feel like it's kind of a must-win, because going down 2-0 in a series of your last one of the day to guarantee if you move on or not feels dicey.
There's a foundation game one. You're not heading into this second game looking to try and change the game plan. For the most part, they had it right, but you've got to make sure those corners are covered. Meshin catches Rounds off guard with this ground pinch. Wheelu had plenty of boost in the tank and felt confident in that position. But this is the case in SSA this season. Everyone seems to have that little bit of magic about them to look out for.
Yeah, Wheelu's rotation is much too sharp for my preference. He cuts it close to the pinch, and in doing so, realizes the ground pinch is coming. He backtracks completely vertical over to his net, and doesn't have the time to get over to the corner. This is an open net, though. If Renshiro can wrap, Cam just want to go for the bump with the shot. Doesn't have the pace to get around Declan. Wheelu trying to find a challenge. 1-0 Synthesis in Rounds. While they have had a couple opportunities at an answer, still shut out on the series thus far.
Declan forward, Cam will knock this ball high once more. Does well for the 50-50 to take this ball down low. Renshiro should have some extra boost to his use. It's excellent control, and he'll go all the way! An unbelievable way to raise the roof for Rounds. Synthesis face an equalizer, and just when you're talking about magic, that was astral divinity.
Both of the Europeans getting involved here. The imports showing their stuff. One apiece. Ground pinch for Meshin. Double tap from Renshiro. Let's see what else they have in their locker. Cam won't get the ball, but will get a demo as consolation. Here's Wheelu. high off the ceiling, going to take a low 50. That one will ricochet over to the sidewall as Renshiro will corral that into his clutches. Declan towards the net, didn't get the flip, but did cause some chaos on the line as Cam flip reset with only a penny in his tank. Can't wrap that around the corner. He really had nowhere else to go with that ball as he's now gonna be pivotal on the back check, but he loses possession over the Daps. That was so dangerous. I thought Rounds were about to own goal, but luckily it stays out. They're not out of the woods yet, however.
Bill 50's out. Rounds have to try and hold on once more longer, but Daps does so well for that initial fake. Sees those two jump too early. And that's just going to be a free net for him. I love when players notice that little bit of space just outside that 6-yard when you do have two players that are just bunched up there on the goal line. You want to see players use it to its full extent. Usually, I'd rather that though in the Rounds' favour. Synthesis show them how it's done.
Eklund collection off the kickoff. Really good centering pass, but a demo came out from Wheelu onto the opposition and nobody was there to collect. Meshin racing towards the net, and Synthesis, I'm going to be honest, Pig, they just look faster. Every time Rounds has conceded, it's just purely off of Synthesis beating them to the ball. And that's been the biggest issue plaguing Rounds thus far, as they do drop by their first multi-goal deficit of the series.
And I mean this so respectfully. Synthesis are just not thinking whatsoever. They see the ball ahead of them and they already know what the best play is. I want to call it calculated, I want to call it surgical, and to an extent it absolutely is, but that makes you think that there's some brain power behind it. They just know what to do. It's instinctual for them. This team looks so interconnected. And now moving forward, danger increases. This time though, it could be put up against this purple side. Cam finds it in, shot off, and that's one to get a game back. Rounds have to keep this on going, but look at this from off the back wall.
Yeah, phenomenal placement here from Cam. The pass is even better, and just Daps doesn't have anywhere to go. Cam slots it behind him. He could have picked any spot on that left side of the net. And Pig, since this gameplay, you said it's, you know, they're not really thinking. It's much like your own, huh? Just full forehead right into the ball, typically.
No, I'm too passive. I'm too scared to go towards the ball, especially if I was in lobbies like this. I wouldn't know what any one of these 6 players are going to be capable of against Iron. Over actually has had a bit of a 1v1 versus Renshiro on my stream the other day. 0 boost for Renshiro. Renshiro actually came out on top, so that was his scrims leading up to this series.
Well, it shows you can get it done any which way. Rounds just peppered the Synthesis net with about 4 or 5 shots, and defense held strong. So Rounds are definitely hungry. They're looking for it. They found some creative ways to get the ball towards the net. Just not the twine at this point in time. Willu, good power forward. That's a demo. Crucial onto Cam. Now Willu, he is so stuck. Luckily the respawning Cam gonna help out, but that was dangerous. Renshiro, ground pinch, can't get it on target. It's a minute left for Rounds to find one.
There's another game that feels like it's on a knife's edge. You can change at any moment. Just one real attack, one killer pass. We know that these 3 players are capable of that. That's how they picked up the second goal. But now time is running out. We've spoken about the heat that today has brought, the brightness of the lights. Now it's full white. It's scorching. Renshiro on the surface of the sun takes this ball over. Cleared out by Machine, but still not out the woods yet. That heavy touch though might just throw it away. Daps will take this one over. It's a flip reset across, but Renshiro doesn't allow that nail to be stamped down. There's a bell rung in this Victorian coffin.
Well, will they be able to seal the deal? That's a great pass, Renshiro towards the net, but Meshin had it covered. One more opportunity, but they have to go the length of the pitch. Downfield pass over to Renshiro. He's going to pop it back for Wheelu. That's a little bit too hot to handle. He's done it, though, to steer it there. Synthesis quickly spike it, recognizing the intention in Rounds once again. Play it all the way down to the wire, but are just conceding too early, too often for them to stay competitive. 3-2 this game. 1-0 was the first, and it's looked good for both teams, but Synthesis have just found more opportunities, Big.
It was one of those games, right, where you see that match result, and if it went either way, you would say it was stolen away from the other. Browns came so close to picking that one up forward. Synthesis got some fantastic saves on their own goal line. Of course, the post and the crossbars also getting involved in a few moments, but the defense a little bit too leaky for my liking. It's not going to be often you're going to concede 3 goals and come out on top by the end of those 5 minutes or those overtimes, should it be required. But once they do clean that up a little bit, I do actually feel like Round looks like the stronger team in those final minutes. I really do look back to that first pinch from Machine where he essentially had nothing left in the tank. We had our final defender back, full tank of boost, and still they were not able to cover that corner. It's these little moments in Rocket League.
Yeah, and I think if that angle of attack is taken differently, you know, that goal never goes in, and we're 2-2 playing in overtime right now. It's just been those small fractions that have been the difference maker for Rounds. But I do think when they found their stride in the bottom 2 minutes of each game at this point, Game 1 and Game 2, they look like the better roster. So whether or not that turns into anything impactful moving forward here, we will see, because they're going to have to reverse sweep. And as it stands right now, it's a tall task, but again, with how they've played, don't think it's out of the question by any means. In fact, I'd still put the odds at 50-50, even though they are down 2 games. They've looked good. They just can't get the balls to fall their way.
You talk about reverse sweeps, and typically it's that dire spot. This is where you start to get a little bit concerned. This is where you're covering your hands. You got your hands on your face, and you're scared to keep the gameplay moving. And I'm just really not in this scenario. This is the most reverse sweepable match of Rocket League I have ever seen, with how close it has been so far. And I do truly believe that Rounds looked an improved side in that second game compared to the first. It just feels like those slight adjustments defensively are going to make a huge difference when it comes to that series score. So load the rounds, ladies and gentlemen, and get hyped up. Let's be here for at minimum 15 minutes longer.
Yeah, the biggest thing I want to see Rounds capitalize on in this Game 3 is challenging early. I think they've given away goals when they're uncontested through the neutral zone of the pitch, and when that shot can come through from Synthesis with their full range of options available, it's come back to bite Rounds. If they can challenge before that contact is made, it'll do their final man lots of honors, as Wilu has to backtrack here. Really dicey with 0 boost in the tank, but he does find his way back towards the ball. Double commit here. Actually, no, I got fooled by the purple, and that's just going to go in. Renshiro beats Declan and just takes a little drop shot right into the top left of the net.
I'm not too sure how that's gone the full distance. Machine just completely miscalculated the trajectory of that final ball. But it's how Rounds ended up conceding their first in the game beforehand. A little bit of a returned favour coming from our opponents. This ball will go down once more. Declan does well to land that 50. Renshiro has to get there for the intercept, but now cutting across. Cam had plenty of space on his own back wall. As soon as he reaches the ground, he can see the piranha surrounding Synthesis. Have not given up on this attack. They have to now. The bump! Almost landing there as well, but Declan ultimately survives, and as do Synthesis.
You and I both saw the play, Pig. Our eyes got as big as saucers, but the contact was not made, and so Rounds will not go up by 2. That is really what they're looking for here, an insurance goal. These games have been close, and any additional goals you can stack on are going to go a long way. They're going to make a real impact here, as Cam going to fake the flip reset, drop it for Wilu. Flip reset backwards, won't make contact as Declan pinches along the sidewall. Renshiro, a side flip, or half flip rather, as what good momentum from Renshiro. That is a glorious sequence from him. It's not a save, it's not a goal, it's not an assist, but the ability to recover and still find a contact to keep Rounds in control of possession of that ball. Very well done.
Insanely well done. That's what's that save coming from Rounds as well. The ball will go back across. Daps has to take this one over, but Wilu It should be a confident 50-50. The second one's where I've got more questions. How about the third? Solid all round. And now Cam is able to get that beat against Declan. Laws out all his boost as well. It should be an advantageous position, but that was a perfect clearance. Just in a point where it's just awkward enough for rounds and they're not going to be able to generate that power whilst keeping that ball low and looping across. Plenty of response time for Synthesis on those back walls. And now you can see they are rewarded with that space in the final third. Still looking for that equaliser. It hasn't been often in this series that rounds have had their hands on the driving seats, but it looks like that could be hijacked very soon unless this defense continues to be as solid as it has been.
Renshiro towards the net. Declan able to get a piece of it. Now Wheelu on the challenge. Cam going to let this sink all the way back to him. He's really awkward here, but he does find a good 50. Onto Declan, daps off the side roll when Shiro called up to the task, and he'll go off of that same sidewall, drop down onto Declan, that pinch over to the side wall. Cam, beat by Meshin, that's a good bump avoided as rounds really scrambling here right now to maintain possession. Cam, full tank of boost. I'd be happy for them to slow down the play, especially with that demo. Just take a breath, because it does feel like they're playing into Synthesis' hand right now. And they're picking up the speed when I don't necessarily think they have to. They've played like the better team when it's been slower.
And that's not something we said during the Swiss stage whatsoever, but they did speak about making a few adjustments heading into the GSL after a few conversations with the coaches. They've had a few opportunities as well to put that to practice.
No way!
What? I thought that was the equaliser. I thought that was the goal. I was ready to sing the praises of one of our opponents. Instead, it looks like that goal could go the other way. Wheelu's going to catch this one off the back wall. And Cam's going to take this one off the corner. Doesn't get that second touch. I'm still not quite recovered from that Daps chance. But the rest of the players here have to play on.
The fact that that's been kept out is beyond me. Meshin, collection touch. Willow gets bumped into a demo, and rounds are now just toying with their food, trying to slow down the play, be methodical with the ball. Renshiro towards the net. Meshin denies him. He has enough boost in the tank to find a pass. It's out to Daps. In fact, Declan, Willow's so awkward. He's going to pre-jump. Renshiro will make contact, and thankfully it will hit the turf, because I was concerned if that offensive continued. Rounds hold on by really a thread, Pig, but they do force a game 4.
It really did feel like a tight game, because it was a tight game for one, but it still didn't feel like rounds are against match point. They're playing with so much confidence. There doesn't seem to be all that much panic. They're not trying to rush too many plays. Sure, they did start to get a little bit faster later into the game, but it felt like it was a slight inaccuracy more than it was a complete blunder in their gameplay, which we do typically see from teams that are in this position. But you talk about rounds being in that driver's seat and having that first opportunity to do so. Grand Theft Auto once more is delayed, but Synthesis were starting to take it back. So I'm hoping in this fourth they can keep that going. What do they need, Coach Konzek?
Oh, man. I mean, I think they play that game better. You're challenging in the neutral zone. Synthesis didn't have any fluke goals as a result. They didn't have the opportunity to set up a play. And yes, rounds, I want to see more offense, but I kind of took Synthesis' role. They were the ones that scored one and then had to batten down the hatches on the back. And if rounds, I think if you score that first goal and then don't slow down the pace, even though I think they were playing better, slower, we've seen this rounds team thrive when they're pedaled to the metal just at your throats. Synthesis, I think, can crumble if you give them enough shots, and that is what rounds, I think, should look for as Willow tries a cheeky little pot shot from the corner there.
Trying to get those frequencies up. Renshiro will take this ball low. He loves to go for these skipping plays. He uses that change in verticality to his favour. Can get such good control behind the ball and has a good mind for it as well. Knows how to pick a defense out of position. Wheelu's not out of position here. Declan Gonna have to catch this ball down again. Wheelu gets forward. Cambo runs out of boost in the final second still. It looked like Daps was going to be beating him towards that ball. That acts as a dummy. It's set up perfectly for these follow-up attacks when there's a little bit of panic coming from Synthesis, but ultimately, well played out. It's Declan for the coast to coast. Will look to take it over to the third foe. Gonna be one too many.
Cam, lose possession. There's not a whole lot of boost on rounds right now. That's a good pop by Cam in order to buy some time. Renshiro can top up on his full as both his teammates are scrambling for really any sort of agency, but Renshiro, that's a must-to-have. It's off the crossbar and back out. Wheelu, 0 boost hero, third opportunity. Renshiro in the goal line denies it, a 4th save for rounds now. And somehow Synthesis have not scored. They finally play the ball into open space. Wheelu wins a 50, and rounds have escaped from the gulag, Pig.
That's 2 games, 2 moments where Synthesis should have changed the course.
Oh my
What a save off the goal line, and another one follows.
What is happening?
Make that free.
No, Wheel's
Bomb
bumped.
coming out. Daps, backboard, flip reset. Cam is there in time. I'm rarely left speechless. What on earth is going on?
Somehow rounds are in this game. And there's been so many close-knit shots by Synthesis. And yet rounds defense is just too strong. They need to take a breath and get this ball out of their zone and play for the offense. And of course, when they finally find a little bit of breathing room, it's buried by Synthesis. There's good dump by Declan, removing Renshiro, and that opens up the nets for a Daps tap-in.
Dev said that we have a strong spell on the goal. They've just been bewitched before that second half begins. And I feel like this phrase is used a lot in the casting space of it was a long time coming, and sometimes there can be softer uses than others. That is definitely deserving of that title. That goal wasn't particularly, but Renshiro still makes it happen. One opportunity, one strike, one big mistake as well from Meshin to not get that initial touch. It's 1-0 heading into this second minute. I cannot believe there's only been 2 goals.
And it does feel like a crucial one from rounds. I think if you let that goal sit from Synthesis any longer, momentum might strongly swing into their favor. But with it being 1 apiece, they can go ahead and play this as a neutral state, even though this game has felt like anything but. Cam, into the corner, Meshin, pop-up touch to himself, but that's a good challenge by Renshiro. It should drop down, it will, but Cam won the full boost rather than the ball, so Wheelu will go instead. Declan, out to Meshin. Meshin bumps his teammates, a 2-on-1 for Daps, dunk by Cam. Won't be on frame, as Declan will take a pop touch for the clearance redirect, and both the teams will go about their merry ways. Wheelu just going to say, you deal with this one. If you mess up, I'll be here to score instead. It'll be a whiff, and rounds look like they're trying to set up some sort of opportunity.
Certainly do. Meshin's 50 drops down here for Declan. Will buy his time to pick up that 100 boost. A slow down of play here from Cam. Look to try and be advantageous for his teammates, but of course that is all time for both teams to spend, and now Synthesis look primed, ready to charge to get themselves forward. Meshin, though, bumped off the ball, will be able to recover. Great save coming from Rilu. The reunion player strikes back when Shiro takes it off that right wall, and we're approaching that time, Quanzek. His golden goal on the cards. Can Wheelu land it? Second touch is his. The top corner is in reach. But Renshiro might have his own chance. That's not even a crossbar.
Synthesis are starved right now. Both corner boosts have been grabbed. They only have about 30 boosts for all 3 players. If this can get sent back in by rounds, they're going to be in tough times. Wheelu. Back wall, Cam collection, nobody has the boost to climb outside of Declan. If he can beat him, it's open, but that demo on the third man, it's going to be an open net. Wheelu, patient challenge, pans out very well as Daps downfield. Renshiro has to adjust after that demo to get contact with the ball. 50, straight up, that Cam will chase down. Dap, drop down from the ceiling. Wheelu Shovels that one towards the backboard, and it'll be scuffled out by Declan. Both these teams understand what's at stake. There's so much caution. Their touches, that one's going to waterfall dangerously. Nobody makes contact. 0 seconds. Will it hit the turf? It will. Overtime, game 4.
We've been here before. During the Swiss stage, myself and Quanzek have seen Renshiro especially been able to clutch up these positions. But this is a completely different moment. A team that has faced a reverse sweep, has reverse sweep denied now, has that coin flipped. Machine has to clear this ball out. Cam sends it right back down. It's in the corridor of uncertainty. Renshiro gives us a shot. It's saved by Declan. Hold on, Renshiro's second chance. Just when you think it's going to be over, caught in once more. This should be all emphasis.
Cam, collection touch, Daps, that's a back pass over to Mesh, and Wheelu barely got a piece of that. That could have been dangerous if he didn't make any contact. A little bit awkward for Renshiro to handle now as Daps pop up. Wheelu will lose the full boost over Daps. That could be crucial if he can't stay on this ball, maintain this pressure, force Synthesis back, bully them into their corner. Renshiro, that's a dangerous ball. Cam has to take an awkward takeoff. In fact, everybody couldn't read it with where that ball was headed. Fake by Wheelu. Renshiro over the corner. Drop down Cam. Not on target.
Leshin not going to be able to get that second touch. It's a great incept there coming from Wheelu, but those same compliments that we gave towards Five Fears, I need to see from Rounds make the work happen here from the corner. Meshin once more is going to be required. We've seen him miss a few of these opportunities, so I don't mind these tester shots that Rounds are setting. And that's a test pass with flying colours from Cam. 150-50. He'll call that one a dunk. Right on the heads of the opponent, and you see that time and the cars as well of Synthesis immediately stop. We're going to game 5.
That's a massive confidence swing, Pig. Synthesis immediately stopped driving. An insult to injury, a demo on one of the immobile Synthesis players as the lobby is getting ready to move into the next game. Rounds doing their best impression of the other teams that they played in Swiss. Is great highlighting there from Hazel on how close that save was by Renshiro. I mean, Rounds, the defense, they pulled out miracles from places I don't want to imagine. It was so close so many times. And Rounds do indeed force Champions Field here, Pig.
Now, we don't like to speculate on off-the-pitch situations here, but I'm going to speculate off-the-pitch situations here and say that the Synthesis, that is a tilting game to lose beyond belief.
Oh, 100%.
Not only did you have those opportunities that just did not go in for... That did not just go in for ages. You also have that final goal, which is just a straight-up dunk on the sidewall going the entire way forward. I'm hoping that it's battered them. I'm hoping that they're left bleeding on the floor and it is time to put them out their misery. One more game. Let's hope it's not the last of the Open. Rounds versus Synthesis, bring it on.
I mean, the mental has got to be in the gutter right now for Synthesis. Let's see how strong they are, how much they can persevere, because Rounds have rallied back in a big manner. Cam, we're going to turn to collect this one. We'll get the full boost as well. Actually, won't make contact with the ball, so instead we'll call up Renshiro, who, with pace, takes this down the left sidewall, and that's sent with even faster pace through a monstrous pinch into the same corner that ball exited. We'll play a little bit of boom ball to start as infield pass. Wheelu Renshiro gets pumped up on his double attempt. Cam uncontested off the ceiling. Double back pass. Renshiro won't get a shot on target.
And that 50 doesn't land for Wheelu. Declan's going to have to chase this one with low boost of attack. Renshiro gets that crucial boost pickup. I spoke about that off-the-ball aggression you need to have. that feels insignificant, but catched him at the right timing, and that could have been the deciding touch. Instead, though, this has fizzled down back to neutral ground. Willu and Cam have to fight for this ball back. They do.
Cam, good flip. Renshiro was lying in the weights, didn't want to go, but ended up going anyways right when that window was closing. Kind of put himself out of position, but Synthesis still haven't been able to find a breakout. Cam, pop-up touch, driving it all the way high. I love this look, drop down. Can't get it into the net, but the creativity there from Cam. It's showing levels to the gameplay just to carry as high as possible. Daps from the sidewall, full take a boost, foot reset, won't make contact with it. That's a wasted opportunity, but he might have done the hard work for the rebound for Meshin. Now Declan will take over, and Rounds need to find a clearance. There it is from Renshiro, not all the way out, but at least buys a little bit of time.
Oh, gorgeous reset from Declan. Will get the flip across off that back wall, and that's free for Meshin. They needed something extravagant to try and beat Rounds. It had not come easily, even when they got creative, even when they got what they believed was clinical. Rounds were there to match. First goal goes to Synthesis. It's been quite some time since this has been the position on the pitch, but Rounds feel like they're a different beast. They found the keys to the locker. That one doesn't sneak inside.
Damn. Chasing this down. And Shiro, I mean, in the great words of Kobe Bryant, you'd be the same animal and a different beast. I don't know why you said beast, and that's what popped into my head, but Rounds need to get monstrous right now. We need Demon Time, Weelu back. That one off the side wall. Declan over to the ceiling as neither one will make contact. A little bit of a whifty. Weelu biding his time. Pop-up touch, that mesh and corrals, gets bumped off. Actually, still might be involved in this play as the pace of this game has crawled to a halt here, Pig. And Rounds are just playing patiently, letting this action come to them, which I think works for the time being. But with 2 minutes on the clock, they're going to need to find some sort of momentum sometime soon.
The best teams in the world, those from EU and A, they don't find a pace. They're constantly changing it. They're dynamic. They know the times to speed up. They know the times to slow down. They create that whiplash for their opponents. And now Rounds need to use a little bit of that themselves. Like you said, I'm happy to see them slow it down. But when that time comes, they've got the boost in the tank. They've got that positional advantage. They need to make some magic happen. Cam could do so. The bump is there to follow as well. Space is open. No one's there on the back wall, but all three players were pressed so high, all in on that first opportunity. That first shot essentially needed to be on target.
Renshiro playing it down. That bump made things a little bit awkward, so Declan had to cut rotation. He will be there too. That's a little bit of a dangerous challenge by Renshiro. Over to the lateral corner. The demos sound out across the entire pitch right now. Rounds under 1 minute, and they need a goal to force overtime. Declan, lofting touch into the corner. Cam will collect. That one, okay, he beats 2 in 1 touches, 3 on 1. Daps all alone, but he goes early and avoids the bump. That's great defense. You have to give him his flowers. But Rounds still need one with 35 seconds on the clock.
So confident to go for that ball. That's one of those positions, again, I say Synthesis are so good at. They don't think, they just go ball. They know that that's their time to strike. Any moment of hesitation, this would be an equalizer. There would be a different energy here in the booth. We would have started off those celebrations. That steam train could be rolling. Instead, it's 10 seconds. That ground is heating up. Soon it will turn to lava, and Rounds needs to find the back of the net just for survival. Weelu in the corner, off that sidewall, and Shiro is up early, but is anyone there to wait below? Weelu just about extends, but Cam's got 0 in the tank. Declan's going to send this one long. It's going to be a hard ball to read. How is this still not touch ground? Daps tries to fake, but Synthesis pull off a reverse sweep denial. A series that makes you love or hate the game, depending on the side you were on. But one thing's for sure, that was a series for the neutrals, and a heartbreaker here on the round stream.
I don't think they had a bad series. I think they played well. I mean, it's just those small difference makers. Game 5, OT, gonna seal the deal there. And we think back to games 1 and 2 as well, where it's just one goal that defined the entire game. And unfortunately, Rounds just couldn't get those balls to come their way. They looked good, as Rhino will join us back on the desk, but unfortunately, our Open 1 event will end here.
It will. Thank you very much, Quanzek and Pegasus. I mean, it is our job. Okay, we take the mantle on to speak about the unspeakable, to find words when there simply are none to describe what we've seen in front of us. And I believe we're all in a very similar mindset there of how on earth do you even go about talking about this game? Let's start, Pegasus, with the very beginning. A very good place to start, I find, as Rounds took a while to heat up. What do you put this down to? Do you think it was that 5 Fears game putting us on ice a little bit and allowing us not to play our game? Do you think maybe Synthesis had a game plan against our style and it worked for those first 2 games? What do you attribute those first 2 games to?
I mean, it's going from playing aliens to playing humans again. I mean, that team is just a completely different level that they were forced to play in the upper bracket. Now you've got to get yourself reset. Remember that the game of Rocket League is winnable again when you do face teams like Synthesis. And of course, it's a completely different pace of game as well. They had a little bit of a break in between those 2 series. And I felt like, sure, it was a slow start. But as Quanzek really highlighted in between the first 2 games, it wasn't super slow. If anything, that was actually a start to be proud of, considering what had happened in that upper. Synthesis are just off the back of a sweep versus Astronic, which, by the way, I don't actually believe is a slouch roster whatsoever. No. Of course, it's got Onizuma on the roster, who's that little bit of a question mark for most people, but after seeing him play a few times, I do genuinely believe he's the real deal. And then the other 2 rounding off that roster are just uncounterable in that regard. You know they deserve to be here.
An icon and an up-and-comer, Skillsteal and Devour, excellent in their own right. But let's take a look at how the bracket shook out then completely. We were the last game to finish here in Group A, and unfortunately it was in the most heart-wrenching of fashions. You can see right there, though, Team 10 will go through on the other side of the lower bracket to join Synthesis. And in the top 6, 5 Fears and Cosmico will be marching on into the mainstream weekends. And oh, how we would love to have been there, how we would love to have joined them. But unfortunately, a Game 5, a reverse sweep denial is what caused at the end to our weekend, Quanzek. And we'll come to you next. I mentioned earlier it's difficult to put into words when you go through something like this, but it's something that the team needs to build on, right? Use the energy, use the feelings that they have now to come back stronger in Open 2.
Yeah, I mean, so much of Rocket League from game to game is it has the mental aspect of it, but then you also have the whole champion's mindset, where any setback, you just have to work through and come out of it stronger, a better form of yourself. You went into your cocoon and you came out a gorgeous butterfly, and that's what I'm expecting to happen to Rounds, as there's a bit of a prolonged period between now and Open number 2. They're going to they have plenty of time to evaluate themselves as roster, to look at these games, to find that chemistry. And the good news is there's a lot of silver linings here. You played well. It's not like it was a slouch and you completely disappointed yourself to your own expectations. A couple bounces go your way and you're into the top 8 into the final playoff bracket in Saturday and Sunday. So I think it's just growing pains. Unfortunately, it does end here, but there's more journey left in the RLCS 2026 season. And Rounds, I think, will I would wager that this is their worst showing over the course of the year.
It would be very hard to disagree with you, Quanzek, as we look ahead to the rest of the season. And part of the nice thing about Open 1 being before Christmas and Open 2 being after is there is so much time now to go away, work in the lab, and get this team absolutely humming, which we know they can do. A couple of thank yous, obviously, to send around. Thank you very much to Rounds for having us on. It's been an absolute pleasure. Rounds trusted RDR Prod with the first, as the first client that we have ever had as a unit, and we could not be more grateful or thankful. So we hope we did it justice for each and every one of you. Thank you, of course, to the two gentlemen either side, Sir Pegasus and Quanzek. A fantastic job throughout the entire day. We appreciate both of you. And a big thank you to the man behind the screen, Hazza, for working on production behind the scenes. The reason this production looks as good as it does is all thanks to him. We'll give everyone a shout out as best as we can, but we are going to shut this one down. A day that started so brightly ends so devastatingly, and unfortunately our run in Open 1 ends here. But that is not the end of SSA in 2026. That is not the final chance. We will have more games, more rounds to come in 2026. We'll see you soon.
What if I told you, from now on, the only thing you need for gaming is this desk? Uneven Base is a complete esports setup. It includes a powerful computer, keyboard, mouse, and monitor, all in one lightweight build. Uneven Base is foldable, portable, and easy to set up. Perfect gaming experience wherever you want. And of course, yeah, there's RGB. Uneven Base. Now it's about you.
Pidä taloutesi hallinnassa pelin sisällä ja sen ulkopuolella.
Siis mikä voi olla niin tärkeää, että äijä ei näy 2 viikkoon? Äijä on tullut takaisin. No niin, let's go. Pitkästä aikaa pelikenttä.
Tervetuloa Prootsoneen.
Tervetuloa Prootsoneen.
Tervetuloa Prootsoneen.